Welcome back, guys. After a brief delay, the Gurus are here. We promised you an Eastern Conference preview today, guys. I'm looking forward to it. So is Mike. Mike, the Jays are doing pretty well. I mean, last night wasn't ideal, but they're
Ah,
still doing okay. I know you
yeah.
just are coming off a disastrous Dolphins
Oh my God.
viewing in person.
In person.
So
Oh.
I know emotions are all over the place. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, that was a disaster. You could say I wasted money on that one for sure. Going to see the Dolphins blowing a huge lead. Then the Jays last night blow a big lead, and it could be the vibes could be better, but I mean ultimately we're still up 2-1. You got to look glass half full here. And hoop season is 2 weeks away, so right now we're trending up.
Yeah, NBA is right around the corner. We wanted to do this a little bit earlier than everyone else. I feel like a lot of people wait till the last minute.
Yeah.
Obviously, NFL is king, but it's good to show love to the NBA at an appropriate juncture, and that is what we're doing here. We're off reality TV a little bit. We'll get back tomorrow. There will
Yep.
be a Survivor episode review. We'll talk about the last few weeks. But today, it is an Eastern Conference preview, the first of our three-part series where we go over the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, and then we talk about award predictions, maybe sure up some final picks and stuff of that nature. So let's just get right into this because why not? We're going to go in order based off the win-loss total projections of ESPN. They had theirs the easiest, in my opinion. So that's what
Right.
we're using today. The 15th ranked team in the Eastern Conference, it's a tie, but we'll start here. It is the Washington Wizards. Their over-under is 20 and a half. They're
Yeah.
coming off a season where they tanked fairly well. They didn't get exactly who they wanted. They ended up with Trey Johnson, who I think is a decent consolation prize, but
Yeah.
regardless, it was not the plant the flag sweepstakes they were hoping for. But Washington is kind of in the same place they've been the last 4 seasons. It feels like they're kind of the Mendoza line for awful sports teams in this country. Are you better or worse in the awful category than the Washington Wizards? And right now, the Wizards feel like they're regressing slowly,
Yeah.
taking a step back to hopefully take 2 steps forward. This is one of those weird teams where I'm just not sure what we're getting. I think this will be a trendy overpick for some because there are some veterans on this roster. I
Correct.
look at CJ, I look at Chris. There's enough talent there supplanting some of those younger players like Bub Carrington, like Kaishan George, like the aforementioned Johnson, Alex Sarr, of course, top 2 pick from last season. They brought in Cam Whitmore. Well, cool, Bali's hurt, but I think he's a guy that we really like.
I like
So
him.
there's a lot of pieces here, but it's one of those teams where what exactly are we going to get? You're smiling. I think you know where you're going with this one.
I'm going over on the
Yeah.
Washington Wizards. I know this is crazy. It's 20 and a half wins. It's like I'm going to be sweating it probably to the end. And Trey Johnson's a guy, I think I was higher on him than you were out of Texas. He's a guy
Yeah,
that
a little bit, yeah.
I have to find a screen for him on my quad box. Like I'm not actively going to be interested in Wizards games, but I do want to see how he's doing. He's like a quiet, it's like, oh, he had 29 and 11 today. It's like a little, it's a little league pass guy that I'm interested in seeing how he plays. There's a lot of young pieces on Washington that I'm actually interested in seeing how they play as a unit. I like Bilal Coulibaly a lot. Alex Sarr is a defensive menace. And look, they turned Jordan Poole, who I couldn't stand to stomach to watch, into CJ McCollum. Neither guy is my cup of tea necessarily, but I think we could argue that one of them is more conducive to winning. I mean, one of them, Jordan Poole last year was a terrible watch. I really couldn't stomach watching Wizards games. I think McCollum is again not my cup of tea. I know he's definitely not your cup of tea, but it's I think bringing in veterans who have played in playoff series before, I think it's big just to hit an over number. I mean, 20 and a half is not that many wins in the Eastern Conference where there's a lot of bad teams we're going to get to here coming up. So there's wins to be had. I like the young nucleus of Washington. I like Trey Johnson more than most. Coulibaly, when he gets back healthy, I like what I saw from him down the stretch last year for the most part. And again, they have guys in that team that I'm not like totally like, this doesn't make any sense. There's a team after this we're going to get to. I'm like, this team doesn't make any sense at all. I think Washington, they make some sense. It's a fun nucleus. They didn't plant the flag. They didn't get Dylan Harper. They maybe didn't even get VJ Edgecombe, but they got a guy who I like. I had him in my top 5. They didn't get totally screwed over like some teams did in the lottery. They tanked well enough, and they tanked ethically. It wasn't like the Utah Jazz who were like mysteriously sitting guys every 5 days. So I mean, the Wizards just weren't good last year. I think they'll be a little bit better this year, and I think they can hit that number, maybe get to 22 wins.
Yeah, I flirted with a lock over for them. I'm not going to go that far, but I think this is like a 24-25 win team. The East is really bad, and I think this team is too many high ceiling guys on any given night to really just roll over and go under 20 and a half. I really liked what I saw from Bub Carrington last year. He was one of my guys, and I think another leap for him, if he can be a legit point guard for this team, that could go really far. And I know they'll be without Koulibaly to start, but I like him as kind of this hybrid 3-4 tweener, lockdown defender. He was showing a lot of progression offensively as well. Chris Middleton and CJ aren't necessarily my cup of tea, as you mentioned, but
right, yeah.
I think they're good enough to kind of supplement some of the ebbs and flows this team's going to have. They have some trade pieces as well if they want to inject even more youth or just, those edge of the roster veteran pieces to kind of help bump this from a 20.5 line to a 25.5 line that I have for them. I'm looking at Kispert, for example, that I think he could be dealt. Marvin Bagley, I know he had some attention, as weird as that sounds.
He had a good series last year with Memphis. He had a good series.
Yeah, there's just a lot of thinness around the NBA, particularly on benches. We always talk about how deep the league is, and that is true. But the back end of the benches for a lot of these good teams right now are really thin. So I think some of these guys could be valuable, and there will be reshuffling because this is a team that has pieces. Even I bet you did not think this name would be brought up today. Tristan Vucevic was an RFA this offseason. I liked what I saw from a guy like that, and he was the Wizards' 12th man. So if you can have a guy like that, a young guy on the absolute end of the bench that can at least play NBA basketball, then I'm into you. And even AJ Johnson, they brought in last year, and I thought he looked okay for them. I wasn't really into the draft pick at all for Milwaukee.
Right.
And I just didn't know what they were trying to do with him. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I thought he had some good minutes for Washington. So they have enough. I'm going over as well. To me, I wouldn't say that's super easy, but I'd be actually stunned if they went
under. They only win 20
it.
games. Yeah, they only win 20 games.
It would take a lot to go wrong. Now, transitioning to a team that I can't stand, the Brooklyn Nets. They also have a 20.5 line. And this is the one, Mike, I don't even understand how Vegas, the all-encompassing Vegas, came to this conclusion. This team blows. Capital B blows. To me, this is a lock under. I'm just going to
put that
down now.
You're locking the Nets?
Oh, my God, a lock. Yeah, easy lock. And even though we're talking about how terrible the East is and some of these terrible teams are just going to luck into decent enough records, not historically bad records, decent enough. This Nets team is abysmal. I'm just going to read you their starting five right now.
Oh, geez.
Igor is their point guard.
Yeah.
Then you have Cam Thomas at the 2. Move over for MPJ at the 3. They're starting apparently Noah Clowney. I think that might be Zaire Williams at the 4. We'll see. And then Nick Claxton at the 5. They also have Terrence Mann, Danny Wolf, of course. It's just one of these teams where how are they going to stop anyone? Literally anyone. Even if you have some decent outings from the likes of MPJ and Cam Thomas, how are you going to allow teams to score under 120 on any given night? I just don't see it whatsoever. I think this team is doing way too much with trying to rebuild through exclusively young talent and bad contracts. I think it's a decent strategy if you have pieces in place. Their pieces in place are Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton. I'm out. I can't stand this team. I would be genuinely surprised if they even eclipse 18 wins. This is a bad NBA team. Lock under.
I'm a little surprised Nick Claxton's still here. I figured if they were just going to...
I am too. I mean, I wouldn't get used to it. He's one of those guys that I think could be moved. But again, the contract, $25 million this year, is just not a team-friendly deal. Unless there's a team like New York who, if let's say Mitchell Robinson goes down again and they really just need some front court help, they could bring in a Nick Claxton and just bite the bullet. But it's just not a guy that I think teams are really interested in.
So the Brooklyn Nets, I wrote down, I don't understand what the heck this team is. They're the only team in the NBA with cap space. Heading into the offseason, they were the only team in the NBA with cap. So here's what they did. They went and turned Cam Johnson, prized possession, Cam Johnson. A lot of teams wanted Cam Johnson. They turned him into Michael Porter Jr., Terrence Mann, and a 2032 Denver first-round pick. That was the haul for Cam Johnson. Terrence Mann. By the way, these are the 3 most expensive players. Oh, sorry, I forgot Drake Powell. They also got the number 22 pick in that trade with Atlanta and Boston. So they got Drake Powell in that haul as well. I'm not a big Drake Powell guy, if you know. I watched a lot of UNC games.
I'm not either.
No, I'm good on that. So their draft was a little weird. Yegor Demon, known as a shooter, didn't really shoot the ball very well last year at BYU. So we'll see how that goes. And he's their point guard. Who is their point guard again? Is that their point guard really? Like you say, he's the point guard on their depth chart. I'm a little I don't know if they
That's what it says. Nolan Traor's behind him, who I assumed would start, but I don't know. They also have your guy Haywood Highsmith. He could be the
get
four.
Haywood Highsmith.
They really have 8 to 9 guys they could start, but they're starting at a terrible team. So
right.
That's not necessarily a compliment.
No, their 3 most expensive players are Michael Porter Jr., Terrence Mann, and Nick Claxton. What's that big 3 doing? What is that big 3 doing for you? That's their 3 most expensive players. That's what they're buying.
Oh my god!
So for the 2025 season, you got MPJ making $30 million or whatever it is. You got Nick Claxton and Terrence Mann. Why is Terrence Mann on this team? What is the point of this? I don't understand what this team is doing. That's your big 3. Cam Thomas is going to have some nice shot chucking moments. I guess him and MPJ will go tit for tat once whoever crosses half court with the ball. It's your time to shoot this one. But who are they stopping? Nobody, really. Even in the East, it's a bunch of cones on this team. I know we like Danny Wolf. He's a fun guy. I'll tune into some Nets games just to see how's Danny Wolf progressing on this team full of absolute traffic cones. But there's no way they get 21 wins, right? I mean, it would take like 5 other Eastern Conference teams being like in January saying, hey, should we just start tanking for AJ DeBansa, Darren Patterson? Like, should we just start tanking for those guys? And maybe the Nets can pick up some wins against like we saw the Nets last year pick up like 4 wins against the Sixers, who were just not even soft tanking, hard tanking by like December, January. And the Nets were able to get some wins against those guys. But like, barring that, and even that, I don't think the Nets are good enough to win 22 games this year. I don't see how it happens.
No, this is a fire sale team. I don't know if teams are really clamoring for Cam Thomas, but I could see mild interest in a Claxton depending on center health around the league. And then Mann, Highsmith, they feel like obvious guys that'll be dealt around.
They can be
to a contender.
Just go farther for our under. That would actually just prove our under even more. If those guys. Yeah, that's an easy under. I'm not going to lock it because it's 20.5.
Hey, at least Kobe Buffkin can finally get some touches, right?
Finally, he's no longer
excited for that.
He's on a rotation that he might actually crack some minutes against with those guys. Yeah, no, it's an easy under for me.
Jumping up a bit, we're going to go to the Charlotte Hornets here, 26.5. So Vegas has the Hornets 6.5 higher than the Nets, which I thought was a little bit interesting. No, I do like this Hornets team to an extent. I think I'm going to go over, Mike. This is a soft over for me, like the softest of overs, like 27 wins. I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm going over on the Hornets. That's how bad the East is, guys, that I am literally contemplating an over on the Hornets. But I'm going to do it because I think this roster is actually semi-competent. The starting 5 on paper is good. The problem is, can they stay healthy? They're bringing back LaMelo, of course, and Brandon Miller. That's their core. They add Knipple. Miles Bridges is still there, kind of just taking up space from some of the younger guys. And then they're going to start Diabate apparently at center, who I actually really enjoyed during spurts. I don't know if he's a starting center by any means, but I did love his energy and his ability to just wreak havoc around the rim. Dinwiddie and Sexton are on the bench as 2 of the backup guards. So finally, they have a legit LaMelo Ball kind of replacement plan when he inevitably goes down. Look, we love our guy Micic, but it was just never going to work as the primary LaMelo Ball backup point guard. It was just never going to happen. Josh Green, I thought, played decent for them in spurts. Grant Williams is back after getting injured last year. They have Trey Mann, who was like kind of in the 6th man of the year conversation for about 5 or 6 weeks until he inevitably got hurt. Liam McNeely fell to them. They have Pat Connaughton. They just have a lot of guys, and I think that's kind of important for some of these low-level teams. Do you have just enough competent guys, particularly around your star players that are trying to ascend or at least stay at that level? Because LaMelo Ball last year, there was points where I thought he was taking a leap. There was points where I thought he was sabotaging the team. He kind of goes back and forth like that. And then Miller just really hasn't been able to take that next step into just being a guy that I thought was going to be Paul George light, this kind of next level scorer. He hasn't really been able to do that. But if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year.
Right.
I think I like this team enough that, again, I'm confident with the over, semi-confident at least, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I'm incredibly confident on the over. This is my lock over.
Oh, my God. This is your lock.
This is my lock. 26.5. Come on. I have them winning 34 games. I think this is the last year's Detroit team. I like the piece on this team. Now, again, I'm banking on LaMelo's ankles being, which is a tough sell here. So obviously I'm banking on him being healthy, but you stole my exact line. I had this exact thing written down. They finally brought in some guard depth for the inevitable LaMelo Ball injury because he's probably going to go down. But I think Colin Sexton's fun. Spencer Dinwiddie, can give them solid minutes. Like I'm not totally, and I love Con Knibble. I thought they had an outstanding draft. They brought in immediate impact guys, which no one really does in the draft anymore. I mean, we'll talk about Milwaukee later. Milwaukee just drafts developmental guys for a team that's supposedly in win now mode. Charlotte said, hey, we're going to draft Con Knibble, Liam McNeely, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Sion James. These are guys who are like, I think they can see the floor and, be fine in the Eastern Conference. So I'm not like, I love their draft. Year 3, Brandon Miller, I think should be pretty good. I'm still really high on Brandon Miller. I'm not giving up just yet. I still have a lot of stock in Brandon Miller. So I'm saying this is the year for Brandon Miller. I mean, we both believe he's like Paul George light. I'm not straying away because I like Charles Lee. I think he's a good coach.
I was just going to say that, Mike. It's rare you see a team that was this bad last year and you're like, wow, I really like their coach.
Exactly.
Because I thought the same thing. Charles Lee came over from Boston, and it was very clear immediately that he had his players' respect. Yes. And I think that's always a good omen immediately when you come into a new team like that. A team that was incredibly immature, that didn't look prepared to even compete at all. And even though their record was terrible last year, I thought they were still competitive in a lot of games when they had so many guys out. It seems like they bought into Charles Lee. And that's something that I like, especially when they bring in this depth this year that could help them go up at least a notch, if not more.
Not inconceivable in this conference.
No, not at all. And I think that'd be considered a good season. Again, they just need more. They need more from LaMelo. They need more from Brandon Miller. But at some point, I think one of those guys is going to show up. I don't think we're going to have a third consecutive season of both those guys being hurt and kind of having no ability to get going midway through the year. They both had solid-ish starts, but as soon as they went down, it was over. Yeah. And that's kind of what we come to expect from that team. I just want to see a healthy LaMelo Ball season.
No, LaMelo Ball started the year out really well last year. It was really good. I was like, oh, this is a nice, pleasant surprise. And of course, he gets injured. Now, I don't think either of us love. They traded both their centers to Phoenix. No, I think we love Mark Williams, Nick Richards, and I can do it out. But they don't. Who's their center? I mean, you said Diabate starting. That's.
I would really like to see Mark Williams, and I think one of the things with that trade was they could only have so many injury-prone guys they can't really rely on. Of course, so Mark Williams was kind of the third on that pecking order. So I understand it, but at the same time, again, I would just give him one more year. If you're not really committed to winning, what's the point of giving up on a guy with so much talent at that age? I just didn't love that either. But again, I do understand it.
Yeah, the Hall, they initially traded him for Dalton Connect and a first. The Hall for Phoenix, I believe, was it. Who did they get for? Yeah, I'm trying to remember now. Refresh my brain. They traded Mark Williams on draft night. I believe Phoenix, and then Phoenix drafted Malawach. So they drafted two. They actually had two centers that night. But I don't think the Charlotte Hornets. I don't remember exactly who they got from that Phoenix trade. Unless it was just like a pick or something.
I don't either, to be honest. I was trying to think because you're right. They got
like they were just like I'm over Mark Williams, just getting off the team. It almost felt like they were just like, okay, let's just move on. And then obviously they trade Nurkic. They trade Nurkic, who was unplayable, for Colin Sexton. So they basically just got rid of their entire front court from last year. No Nurkic, no Nick Richards, no Mark Williams. We're revamping the front court here. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But I kind of just trust Charles Lee. This is kind of I'm banking on him. He coached an absolute mess of a team last year, and I thought they were competitive enough to in this Eastern Conference. I'm not saying he's JB Bickerstaff for Detroit, but I think they can definitely get more wins than they did last year. And out of this tanking group that they're in, I don't think they're going to be. Obviously, they didn't capture the flag last year to their best ability, and I don't think they're going to be racing for Debanza or Darren Patterson either. So
I think they'll be slightly above that. But again, with the lottery system, they could be slightly above that and still kind of fall backwards into it. So it's kind of impossible to figure out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And we like Pat Connaughton. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on Tijane Salon is, but he's one of their projects.
He tried really hard. He tried really hard. Did it look good? Not at all. But there was times where the effort was just off the charts, and I appreciated it. So
yeah, Grant Williams is still here, your guy. So there's some pieces here.
Yeah, I mean, I could go without him, but they have enough guys. They have enough guys, and that's going to be a common theme that we're going to talk about throughout this episode. Where a lot of these teams, they just have enough from their first 1 through 7, where they could at least be competitive, because this conference is really, really bad. So again, we're going to get some of these wrong based off of just A, injuries, which always happen, and that's inevitable. But B, some of these depth pieces just kind of playing above their means because of who they're facing on a night in, night out basis, which is this awful Eastern Conference. But we're going to, we're going to keep chugging along here because, we have to talk about the Chicago Bulls, who are, again, another level up of where we just were. So Washington was 20.5 with Brooklyn. Charlotte was 26.5, so a bump up there. We're bumping up again with Chicago, 31.5 wins loss. I think this line is pathetic. This is a lock over for me, my second lock so far.
Oh my gosh.
The starting five, Giddey, Kobe White, Isaac Okoro, Montes Buzelis, and Nikola Vucevic. It's not going to blow your socks off, but I think it's enough that they're going to be able to batter some of those teams beneath them.
Right.
I think they are going to be able to take care of your Washingtons, your Brooklyns, your Charlottes consistently. And that's kind of what you look for with some of these teams around this range. Can they consistently beat the teams beneath them at enough of a rate to bump up this win total and then be competitive with the ones slightly in their area code like Miami, Toronto, etc.? And I do think they can. I think Giddey was really special for them last year. Again, he didn't really have a market because of the lack of cap space around the NBA, but also because of his play style. You have to kind of cater the team around him. Not necessarily Chicago has done that, but again, it works enough. I thought Kobe White was really special at points last year. Okoro is a guy who can at least play defense and hit wide open corner threes. I don't like him at all, but he's at least decent enough in that role. I think they're going to try to upgrade from that spot eventually, but we'll see there. Montes Buzelis is who I want to highlight here because I thought the last 2 months of the year, he was playing out of his mind. He was, in my opinion, by far the best rookie of the last 6 weeks of the season. I thought Reece Archie had a good close. I'm a big Stephon Castle guy, but I thought night in, night out, Buzelis was really taking a step in the right direction. He was playing well at every level. He was showing a scoring ability I didn't think he would be able to have at this point in his career. So I think if he can continue on that trajectory, he's a legit piece for this team. And then your top three is Giddey, White, Buzelis. You start looking around the East, that's enough for a top three. That just is. And then Vucevic is the perennial trade guy.
Still here. I don't know why is he still here?
I don't know. That's why I'm not really throwing him in with those guys because I think it's inevitable that he's going to get dumped in a salary dumping effort at some point this year.
Right.
And the depth, Mike, it isn't awesome, but it's okay. You have Trey Jones, who I like. Ayo Dosunmu, who's still there. Kevin Huerter, who was playing far better ball when he got to Chicago. Patrick Williams is still taking up space, but he's the definition of meh. Jalen Smith can shoot threes occasionally with his big goggles.
Jalen Terry, we like.
Jalen Terry's there. They got Noah Senge, who, again, I think is just going to be a flyer guy who's going to play 10, 15 minutes a night for them. I don't think he'll make much of an impact. But this is a lock over. I think this is an easy 36, 37 win team based off solely the rest of the competition in the conference. And I think their top 3 or 4 guys are being slightly underrated.
Yeah, I don't like much of this roster, but I am with you. It's enough good pieces to get to at least 33, 34 wins. 31.5 seems a little bit insulting. I wrote down Vooch and Patrick Williams are still here. Why? I didn't really.
Who knows?
Who knows why they're still here? I mean, Bill Simmons said it feels like the Bulls are run by like a chat AI engine that just broke. And it's like, why do they need Isaac Okoro here? I also said, why is Isaac Okoro here? You have Patrick Williams who's taking up space. Let's just bring in Isaac Okoro.
Kind of does the same-ish thing.
Yeah, they're like, they don't need to be on the same. I don't understand the roster here, but I do like enough pieces. I like Kobe White. He's streaky, but his good streaks are good for sure. I mean, Buzelis had an awesome close to last year. I'm not even really a Buzelis guy, but obviously you get the scoring threat from 3 levels of the floor. That's obviously important there. And yeah, I mean, they have enough. We like Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey post January was awesome. So there's enough piece on this roster. And I don't love all the pieces on the same roster together. And I think there's definitely some trades. This is the Bulls are not going to have this exact same roster 4 months from now. I would not.
No.
Like some of these guys need to be on the move. But overall, I think they can still fight to 33, 34 wins. You have the more 36, 37 wins. Maybe that's possible with the East and how this landscape is. They're like a perennial play-in team. Could they get back to the play-in as a 10 seed? It wouldn't shock me. I don't have that happening. But I mean, the Bulls will be feisty. They'll be competitive. They're much better than the tanking teams that we just talked about. So I would. It's an over. It's not a lock over for me because I don't know this Bulls roster. I don't know what it's going to look like in 3 months. So I can't say for sure that they're going to be. But it's probably a good bet to bet the over here. I'd probably the lean is over for sure.
Speaking of a team we don't know what they'll look like in a few months, the Miami Heat come up next. Mike's squad,
really
38.5 is their line, so another level up, and now you're going to start to see more lines are around the same ballpark.
Right, but why are we the 38.5 that we can't talk about Toronto or Indiana? We're better than Toronto and Indiana. What are we doing, guys? Why are we the first?
It's just where they were on the sheet. I'm just going off the sheet. Yeah, Miami was there. They're the first team out of the play-in line. The starting lineup right now, Davion Mitchell, Norm Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Bam, and Khalil Ware. Double big there. Of course, Tyler Hero is going to be out for a while. And then on the bench, you have my guy Kasparas, who I was so upset Miami just was able to take away early in the. It was 20, right? It was number 20 overall.
Yeah, 20.
Yeah, just way too late for him. I thought he was a great shooter. I was really upset about that. Pelle Larsson, who I cannot believe is rostered in the NBA. Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, who Miami just said we need way more of.
Whoa.
We need way more of. Lock him up. Lock him up.
I don't
know who the competition was for that contract, but we need him here in South Beach. And then Precious running the backup big spot. And it's just one of these teams. I don't know what is going on here. You talked about that earlier with Brooklyn, but Brooklyn's an unserious franchise, so I don't really care what they do. Miami, I actually have respect for. So I just don't understand what the point of this is. I know we argued about this last year with the Wiggins thing. Miami should just commit one way or the other. They're two in the middle right now, and it's to the point where they're kind of fading from the middle. They're actually just going into bad territory, but they're not trying to do that, which I think is even more destructive. Mike, this is an under for me. I like this team to an extent. I like some of the pieces. All right. I like Norm Powell. You know that. I'm a big off-night guy, at least in spurts. I don't know if I like him as the starting one, but I like him in spurts.
You don't like that defensive backcourt of Off-Night and Norm Powell?
No. I think at points that there's just going to be bigger players that... I like Off-Night a lot, but if you have a bigger guard going up against them, there's just times where he just simply looks outmatched. It's just that simple. And same with Norm. Like, Norm's just another year older. There was guys with good foot speed last year were just kind of blowing right by him when he was with the Clippers, and I thought that was concerning. Look, the front court is fun, I guess. I like Bam. I like Khalil Ware as individual pieces, but together, I just don't really see it. Spoelstra is going to get the most out of this roster, and that's what concerns me anytime I even ponder under with Miami. But right now, who's scoring the basketball? Because I know Norm can score the leather off the ball, but outside of that, Wiggins is just not consistent enough. Bam really struggled with his offensive bag last year. Ware's not. Ware's not there yet, in my opinion. So you're going to rely on like Kasparas to provide good bench minutes. Same with Jaquez, who kind of took a step back last year. There's just not enough scoring on this team for me without Hero. I think it's really concerning. Again, they could add pieces for sure. This is definitely an add team. They have the ability to kind of move salaries around, try to go in a positive direction. But for me, it's an under. They just simply don't have enough offense. And the defense, while I think it'll be solid, is just not going to be able to overcome the lack of scoring.
Yeah, I think this is an easy over for me. So we disagree.
Naturally.
Naturally. Of course it is. I think that every point you made would have made sense if they didn't bring in Norm Powell. I think that we would have struggled to get to 38 wins, 39 wins without a Norm Powell. But Norm Powell is like the perfect player for the Heat, I feel like. We didn't have enough north-south downhill scoring. There was a lot of side-to-side movement, a lot of late clock nonsense. They just needed a guy who could go get a bucket. Norm Powell, I feel like, is the perfect Heat culture guy, and I want to, spew the Heat culture word around, but it's a thing. I mean, it's a thing, But
who's creating offense for the other four guys? That's my problem.
Well, okay, but we're acting like Tyler Hero's gonna be out for the whole year. He's not gonna be out for the whole year. He's gonna miss the first couple months. I mean, he'll be
but
back.
That's a big deal, especially with the over-unders. That's a big deal.
But you got to factor in Tyler Hero being there for a good chunk of the season.
Like, what is this line with Tyler Hero? It's like 42.5. You think they're gonna just magically?
No, I think they're a 40-win team. I think they can
trade water. Okay. So you think
Hero's
Hero's only worth 2 wins in the over/under? Who's out for a few months? You think he's only worth 2 wins? The line with Hero, I bet you, is probably 42, 43.5. So you think Hero is only worth 2 wins?
No. I'm saying Hero out for 2 months is not a 5-win. I don't think they're dropping 5 losses because Tyler Hero's out for a couple months. I don't think that.
I kind of do. I kind of do think that.
Okay, then clearly you value Tyler Hero more than I do. I think Bam's the best player on the team. So,
no, 100% Bam's the best player on the team. But I think Tyler Hero is the most valuable player to the team, which I think is the different because of what he brings offensively, and that's kind of again the area where this team really lacks. So I think right now Hero is the most important. Bam's obviously the best player. That's not really a debate. But
I think that they actually had a sneaky good offseason. And now I don't think that they picked a side, which I don't. I wanted them to pick a side, just like you. I wanted them to pick a side. But they turned Duncan Robinson, who was starting to get a little unplayable, into Simone Fontecchio, who I kind of like. I like Fontecchio.
I like him too.
Robinson's contract was terrible. Got off that and got Fontecchio, who's making dirt cheap, nothing money. Hawkins obviously had a rough year last year. Bam struggled close. He struggled around the rim, mostly to finish around the rim, but he was also much better from the outside. He hit his mid-range at a more consistent level. He hit, obviously, threes last year. He was shooting threes for the first time all year. So I think he was working a lot on his outside game and obviously lost a little bit of that touch inside. I think he probably gets back closer to what we saw before that. Bam obviously finishing better around the rim. So I think we're going to see a better offensive season from Bam, who obviously had a tough year last year bag-wise, wasn't really getting to his spots as well, but he was hitting outside shots, which is obviously it helps the offense if he's hitting outside shots, but he also needs to get back to what he did in the first 7 years of his career, obviously. Yeah. Being like a rim presence and all that other stuff. But I think the Heat are going to play faster, which is my most important thing. The Heat were a slow team last year with Butler, and then after he left, they kind of a crisis identity shift where they were like, who's taking the ball late in the shot clock? It's like no one really knows. It's like a hot potato offense. Like, okay, you take it. It was a lot of late clock grenades by Tyler Hero. So the efficiency wise, I don't know exactly what Tyler Hero's efficiency was last year, but I think could have been better because they just kind of like looked to him as like, can you please score? And Wiggins, same thing. So that post Butler trade, I wasn't sure if that was like the real version of the Heat because I don't think they even knew what they were at that point. So I think a full season of this roster, you get Off Night back, you get Norman Powell. Once Tyler Hero's inserted, you're not even going to start Off Night. Off Night's now coming off the bench, which I like him more as a bench piece, obviously. This is just not enough wins. I mean, 30.5 wins in the Eastern Conference. The Heat are just better than some of these other teams. Like, I'm sorry, you're going to say Toronto is better than. There's no chance. Indiana without their offensive hub is just not better than the Heat. The Bulls, they're not on our level. The Bulls, I'm sorry, they're not on our level. They have nice young pieces. They're fine. We smoke them every year in the play-in. I'm not.
It gets so hard, Mike, because there's a lot of teams that we're just not going to like around this range.
Of course.
And one or two of them are just going to go over out of sure circumstance. So I'm willing to admit that is a potential possibility with this Heat team. For me, with Hero out, even if it's just for a few months, I think it's too much of a detriment, particularly offensively, as I keep mentioning. And I like that they'll push the pace, but look who they're pushing the pace with. That's the thing I always talk about. A lot of these bad teams like to push the pace, and it doesn't always end up well.
You don't like Andrew Wiggins. You don't like Andrew Wiggins 2025. Evidently, you don't.
No, I don't. Do you? You can't. You can't actually like that for 2025.
No, I'm not. But no, I'm not. Of course, I don't. But I'm saying in an over/under regular season, he's going to have some nights where it's like, oh, Andrew Wiggins, nice.
Yeah, he'll
have a couple 2 weeks where it's like, oh, Andrew Wiggins, nice couple weeks. That's enough in this. And by the way, year 2 Khalil Ware, rim running Khalil Ware, a more fast-paced team around Khalil Ware. I like Khalil Ware. Sorry, look, he doesn't rebound for anything, but outside of that, I like Khalil Ware's offensive bag. He's a good shot blocker, obviously. So, you can run double big lineups, and they had success running double big lineups last year when Khalil Ware was actually engaged. So I don't think this is like a terrible team by any stretch of the imagination. This is a team that turned Duncan Robinson into Fontecchio, who cheaper, and you can get the exact same production out of him. I trust Spoelstra in that regard. You turned Kevin Love and a bunch of other unplayable guys into Norman Powell. Like, yeah, okay. They're not picking a side necessarily, but they're still like, hey, we're going for the play-in again. And they're that much more equipped to make the play-in than these other teams we're talking about. I mean, in the play-in territory range, this is a team that's going to make the play-in. Like, if the Heat missed the play-in, it would kind of tell me that, okay, Bam missed a month. They traded Wiggins for like Rui Hachimura and like nothing, or Davion Mitchell is like can't shoot the ball anymore or something like that. Like, he was actually making threes late last year, so it would take like things to go wrong, which obviously they could. But everything went wrong last year for the Heat, and they still made the play-in, still made the playoffs. I mean, they traded Butler, who like wouldn't play for the team. So that last year was the year from hell. So if there was a year to go under, it would have been last year when Butler's like literally not practicing, not even showing up to games. Bam's not making any shots close to the rim. That would have been the year to go under, and they did go under. But this year, I feel like
I did go under last year too.
I totally get what you're saying. They did go under last year, and it's by and large the same team as last year. But they did upgrade. I mean, you can't act like Norman Powell going from Kevin Love to Norman Powell's not an upgrade. That's obviously an upgrade. They didn't choose a direction.
No, of course it is, and I love Norman Powell. I just think the Hero omission for the first few months is just that big of a deal.
So if Hero wasn't injured, this would be an easy over, right?
Yeah,
this roster,
especially at this line, the line would be a little higher. But even at a 41 and a half, 42 and a half, I'd still be apt to go over if Hero was healthy the whole time. Yeah,
that's fine. I mean, look, we disagree on what Spoelstra can do with bad rosters. And I don't think this is actually a bad roster. I don't think it's that bad of a roster. I think they got the most out of their draft pick with Kasparis falling to them.
Oh,
they needed a combo. Yeah, they needed a combo / point guard who can like push the pace. I mean, we see it with Halliburton. Like, he's like a mini Halliburton. The comps there. I'm not so sure he's mini Halliburton, but nonetheless, they needed, if they want to play this way, they got kind of the pieces to do it. No, I mean, not fully. I don't think this is a trade team for sure. Like, why is Rozier still here? Like, Wiggins, why is he still here? So there's still some guys.
Rozier's going to be investigated again.
Rozier's unmovable. At this point, he's unmovable. We totally agree there. He's unmovable. So there's some guys that you can't really move, but I think it's a fine roster. I'd love to have a Haywood Highsmith of the team. I mean, maybe Nikola Jovic takes a year 3 jump that I'm not,
I cannot wait for us to circle back to Miami.
We'll circle back.
I cannot wait for it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. One way or the other, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, we'll see. They'll probably end up with 38, 39 wins. So we'll be right in the middle. So we'll see.
It'll be a sweat till the end.
Very sweaty.
Here's a fun one that just in the course of us sitting here, I flipped on about 5 times. The Toronto Raptors, they are the official play-in line, 38.5, the same as Miami, but for whatever reason, they were just above Miami on the chart.
Why?
I don't know. They're starting IQ, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl. Jamal Shedd played some decent minutes for them last year. Grady Dick, of course, is still there. Grew a few inches, allegedly. Ochai Agbaji had a career year. They bring in Murray Boyles in the draft. They get our guy Mamu to be a backup 5. Thought that was a funny move. Yeah. Mogbo's still here. They have some guys. There's a lot of fun pieces that you would like on other teams, but all together is the problem. Reluctant. This is so reluctant. I have to do this. I have to do this because I dislike a team ahead of them more. So I have to take the over. I don't like it whatsoever. I'm just prefacing this. If I could take Miami, Toronto, and the next teams under all of them, I would. You can't really do that the way this is set up. I have to go over on somebody. I'm going to go over on Toronto. The thing with Toronto is I think if they are engaged and they are healthy, they will just stumble into 40 wins because of how bad this Eastern Conference is. I truly think that because I'm not a big RJ guy. He can at least score the basketball. I'm not a big Brandon Ingram guy. He can at least score the basketball. I'm not a big IQ guy. He can at least score the basketball. That's 3 guys that are at least buckets for this team that can create their own offense for them. And in a way, I think RJ was better at creating at the end of last year for others. IQ has shown some inconsistencies with his playmaking, but I think it's okay at best. Scotty needs to have a bounce back year in the worst possible way. And like Bam, I think it was just too many things that he regressed at that he did so well early in his career that I think it just has to naturally go in the right direction. And then Jakob Poeltl was kind of a fun 5 that teams kick the tires on, serious teams kick the tires on, that didn't really go anywhere. But if you look at the starting centers in this league, he's fine. He really is. I'm not a big fan of the guy, but he's fine. And I think that's what this team is, fine. And when you're in a bad conference, fine is good enough sometimes. And I hate this because if this conference was actually good, they'd be a lock under. I'd be telling you about how terrible this roster building is and how it makes no sense and how they're trying to spend like they're building a championship contender when in reality they'd be lucky to get the 8th seed in the East. But because of what the East has left me with, I have to sadly say over, Mike. You're going to disagree, and that's totally fine. Tell me why.
I will tell you how bad the roster building is. This roster blows. Capital B blows. Together, they blow. There's some pieces that I like, not together. They don't take threes. They don't make threes. They've been bottom 10 the last 3 seasons in threes attempted and threes made. So they don't take them. They don't make them. They play like a 2000s team. They've led the league in shots attempted in the paint the last 2 years. Guess what? They're bottom 5 in getting to the line. They don't even get to the free throw line. They took all their shots in the paint. So they do nothing well offensively. They got guys who can score. IQ can score, but is he worth $32 million in the next 4 years? Absolutely not.
No.
Brandon Ingram, yeah, he can score. Is he a fit at all alongside Scotty Barnes? No. This fit makes no sense whatsoever. Why is he next to Scotty Barnes? Who thought this in the front office? Say, hey, let's bring in Brandon Ingram to play alongside Scotty Barnes. That's going to work. No, it isn't.
I think there's this conception that Brandon Ingram, because of what he projected as at Duke, even though that was like a decade ago at this point.
That was 9 years ago.
Even though that was a decade ago at this point, is a better shooter than he actually is. I truly think when you have that moniker when you're coming up that like you can project as this kind of natural modern wing, it kind of just sticks to you for a while. We've talked about this all the time. If you come into the league as a good defender, you don't lose that moniker. Even if you end up stinking at defense a few years down the line, you can't really shed your defensive reputation in a negative way. Same with, to me, offensive projection guys, particularly in the top 5 or 10. Ingram is really a mid-range assassin. That's where he does a lot of his work. He's not really a great shooter. He's shown stretches in his career for a few weeks at a time where he kind of gets hot. But if you just look at his season as a whole, he really is not a great threat from beyond the arc. So no, he does not help in that way whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. To go back to that point, they get to the line. and they don't make any free throws. They've been outscored by 4 points a game at the foul line.
Yeah, he can't do that either, by the way. He doesn't,
they're dead last.
Really help there.
They get outscored at the free throw line the most in the NBA. So they're dead last in the league in terms of like free throw discrepancy. They don't make free throws. They don't. They're not a good shooting team. I'm sorry. They're just not. I know Grady Dick can make outside shots, Ochai Agbaji, but their actual nucleus of players are not good shooters. RJ Barrett's not a good shooter. Brandon Ingram doesn't shoot the three that well. Scotty Barnes, obviously, we know he doesn't shoot the three that well. So their nucleus of players doesn't really make any sense to me next to each other. The IQ, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl trio that everyone loves, they've been outscored by 11.2 points per 100 possessions when those guys were on the floor together last year. That's really bad. That's like, so that nucleus isn't like anything. They spend money like that big three is like making money. They spend money on Jakob Poeltl. They spent money on IQ, Emmanuel Quickly. So that's not necessarily, it's an expensive roster that isn't even that good. So they've invested in guys who haven't done
it's anything. Over 120 million for those four guys, Mike.
For guys who haven't won
120 million.
Yeah, what exactly have this nucleus done together? They've done absolutely nothing together as a nucleus, and they're investing in it. By the way, they have IQ for 4 more years at 32.5 million per year each of the next 4 years. So good luck with that. And also, I'm not so sure Scotty Barnes is like this Paolo Banchero level of franchise player. He can like elevate like a shit roster. I don't think this roster is any good. Can he elevate this roster around him? I'm not so sure he can. Like, I don't think this is like trendy 7 or 8 seed here because Scotty Barnes is taking this leap. I'm not so sure that he is that player. I'd love to see it, but this roster around him doesn't make much sense. But Banchero's roster early in his career didn't make much sense. Yet he still was kind of dragging them to like 35 wins, 30. Like it was a little bit. I don't think he's that kind of player. This roster of players together doesn't make any sense. I thought they'd make at least 4 trades in the offseason. RJ Barrett's still here. They said we want more of Jakob Poeltl. They can't get out of the IQ thing because no one was bidding for IQ whenever they gave him that extension. Brandon Ingram, they just kind of like, hey, we'll trade for him. Don't need him, but we'll trade for him. He doesn't take threes, which is perfect. He took more threes last year. Extended. He went from 22% of his shots for threes to last year 35% of his shots for threes. But he's not like a shooter per se.
No,
so this roster
it was clearly a move to try to like improve his offensive ceiling. It was very evident that he was kind of doing it against his not better judgment, but it was clearly like a gimmick that he was trying out. I'm going to say this to defend my pick here. We haven't seen these guys together. Even the guys that were there last year, they really haven't played together.
That's
and
good.
Just the unknown of it, I'm going to bank on that they can maybe get to like 40 wins. I think they try really hard. That's important in the NBA. I think if Brandon Ingram's engaged, which is a big if, they can play fast with this team. IQ is lightning fast. Scotty is a good rim runner. And I think a lot of times in transition, Scotty was one of the better guys to kind of seal under the basket and get a cheap 2. He's really good at that.
How many games is IQ playing? How many games do you think he plays this year before getting injured? Over under 50.
52.
52. Okay, so that would be good. And if you can,
that'd be good. Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
That'd be good for your own.
I don't know if it'd be a bad thing. You'd see more Grady Dick. You'd see more Agbaji. I don't know if it'd be that bad.
Okay, interesting.
But I think this team's look again. They have enough shot creation. Do they need to shoot more threes and make more threes? Of course they do. Obviously, yes. But I think it's just so important that Ingram can get his own shot. RJ can get his own shot. IQ can get his own shot. Scotty can. Grady can. Agbaji looked like he could at points at the end of last year. Yeah. So they just have enough isolated talent. I don't like it on a team. I will admit that for the 18th time. But given the rest of the landscape in the East,
right,
40 and 42 in this East is a terrible record. I just want that to be known. That is a terrible record. And that's their over. If you are under 500 in this Eastern Conference, you're a bad team. I think Toronto is a bad team. I just think they're slightly less bad than some of the other teams we're talking about right now. Or if nothing else, have enough just pieces to be able to kind of compete with. Like, look, they were losing games at the end of last year to the likes of the Wizards and Nets, like that caliber of team. They should be able to handily beat them this year with their core in place. If they are healthy, they should be easily way above that. They should be far more competitive with like your Phillies, your Bostons even. I just think right now, 40 and 42, a bad record, a bad team. But one of these teams is going to slightly play above their means. I think Toronto could do that. Again, this is just around the margins, right? This is really around the margins.
Right, yeah, we're going to circle back to Toronto. I'm pretty sure they're going to blow, but we'll circle back to Toronto.
Okay. We'll see. I think this team's going to blow, Mike. The Indiana Pacers, 38.5. This is a lock under.
You're not locking them. No, don't do that.
My third lock. You bet I am.
No.
Mike, this team stinks. Without Halliburton, this team stinks. Stop it. This is a bad basketball team
I have the under
without
too.
Tyrese Halliburton. I like some of the guys on their own, and they will get plenty of buzz. And people dislike this because we just saw them in the finals, so it's kind of hard to just talk about a finals team in such a negative light.
Yeah.
But they lost Miles Turner, they lost Tyrese Halliburton, and they got nothing in return.
They lost Thomas Bryant, our guy.
And
we don't need Thomas Bryant.
they also lost Thomas Bryant.
Yeah,
But again, they lost two of their top at least 4 or 5 guys for nothing. They got nothing in return. That to me is disastrous when you're talking about over-unders. They're starting 5 as of right now. Nembhard's going to be the Halliburton replacement. Ben Mathurin, Aaron Nesmith at the 3, Pascal Siakam. Right now, Isaiah Jackson, who I do kind of like, but I don't know if I like him as a starting center in the NBA.
You like Jay Huff?
5.
You like Jay Huff?
No. Do you?
No,
not at all. Come on. For depth pieces, we have Ben Shepherd, Obi Toppin, our guy TJ McConnell, who I think might be on the move. Spoiler alert. They get Jarris Walker back. Cam Jones is a nice piece that they were able to get in the draft.
I like Cam Jones.
Yeah, I do too. They still have Johnny Furphy running around. Mike, we talked about how Toronto just kind of has enough guys of a certain tier, of like a mid-tier. Indiana has too many guys of a tier below that, and I think that's the biggest problem here. I like Nembhard quite a bit, but I think people forget how mediocre at best regular season Andrew Nembhard's been the last few years. I remember early last season, I was taking a lot of his overs. I saw what he did in the Eastern Conference Finals. I thought he'd have a bit more of a green light, and maybe he could without Halliburton. And I think throughout the finals run, he showed that when he's called upon, he can still really elevate this team at a high level with Halliburton, with Pascal, etc. He can be one of these core nucleus guys, but there's just too many other times where you barely notice him on the floor. It's just not consistent at all yet. I need to see it at least for a few weeks before I start to buy into it. Ben Mathurin, another guy I wanted to see take a leap, didn't really do that. He honestly regressed. Carlisle clearly has some negative feelings towards him. He's going to have to be relying on him now because they need his offense. And I just think when you have that kind of coach-player kind of rift, it just doesn't usually end well. Nesmith's a guy who will give you good effort every night, but he's not going to be able to help the load that Turner and Halliburton have left. Siakam's going to be an all-star. That's an easy... If you want another lock, Pascal Siakam all-star, lock that up.
Sure.
But it's just who's scoring, who's playing defense. They just don't have a direction whatsoever. It's just one of these sad situations where if they did have Halliburton, even if they upgraded from the 5 spot from Turner to someone else, I don't know what that would look like, but regardless, if they were able to kind of shift this roster around and kind of build upon the finals run, I'd be really bullish on this team. But given the current circumstances, I feel like they intentionally took their foot off the gas, wait for Halliburton to come back, regroup then, lock under to me. I really like this team, but I think the baked-in playoff run last year is just giving them way too much respect on this line. I really think this is like a 32-win team, Mike. I just don't see it.
I said my notes was they need a superhuman most improved player, Ben Mathurin, if they want to hit the goal. It's the only way. We need like a Ben Mathurin. Remember what was it?
Or Nembhard, yeah. It's got to be one of those guys.
Right.
Basically just becomes an all-star.
Right. What was that game that Ben Mathurin just looked like a different? I think it was game 2 or whichever game game 3 in Indiana.
Of the finals.
Yeah.
Yes,
him and McConnell, like the 2 best players in the Pacers. I was like, oh, this Ben Mathurin is like who I saw out of Arizona. That's like the guy who went 6 overall. So they need like a superhuman. They need Ben Mathurin to win most improved player to like hit this over. I said if Rick Carlisle should win coach of the year if they hit this over, it's going to be a very, very tough task. They lose Miles Turner for nothing. That's Did I help convince you on the lock? I feel like I saw the gear shifting when I was talking. I'm not locking it because I love Rick Carlisle and I still have stock on Nesmith Island. You know this.
Same. I mean, we have condos next to each other.
We have condos. Yeah, we're right down the same block. So I'm not going to lock it because it's the Eastern Conference. That's the only reason why I'm not locking it.
Okay, that's fair.
If they go 39-43, it would shock me, but I'm not going to. It's in the world of possibility because I've seen what the Rick Carlisle can do with below average rosters. I mean, he had an Indiana roster in the play-in that I didn't think was a play-in roster like 5 years ago. So I'm not going to lock it, but you lose Miles Turner, who, by the way, they could have traded at any point in the last 7 years. He was on the trade machines, for each of the last 7 years, and they didn't move him at any point.
I think he led the league in jersey swaps.
Yes,
and I remember I'm obviously a Celtics fan. There was just for at least 4 or 5 years, it felt like the annual Miles Turner to Boston rumors. It was specifically Boston that was just seemingly so interested in him. And I agree with you. I understand not re-signing him for the price tag that Milwaukee did. I thought Milwaukee overpaid for Miles Turner, particularly what I saw the end of the playoff run last year. I thought he just really ran out of gas. But if you're going to lose him,
2 rounds, though. He had a really good
you could at least maybe try to pay him up front for like 2 years and then trade him when Halliburton comes back just to get value for the guy. I just thought losing the asset for nothing, even though he was overpaid, when, again, you wanted to trade him for so long, just felt like a really bad management move from a team that I really respect their front office. They seem to always press the right buttons. I just thought that was a really bad miss.
Yeah, he was also in the hey, trade Buddy Hield and Miles Turner to the Lakers. Just get it over with already. We all know that's the trade to make. He was also in those trade rumors. So he was in different eras of trade rumors with the Indiana Pacers. He was in the trade rumors when they had the first round against the Cavs that year. I believe it was Paul George's last year with the Pacers. He was like, okay, let's just trade Miles Turner now. Then he was in the other iteration of, okay, trade him. They're a play-in team. They're not going anywhere. I think they got swept like 3 years in a row in the playoffs to the Heat in the bubble, to the Celtics in 2021. So yeah, he's been in every iteration of trade machines. And then finally, he's playing in Game 7 of the NBA Finals for that exact same franchise that could have traded him at any moment in the last 7 years. And he's a game away from winning a championship with the team. They don't win it. Obviously, the injury to Halliburton in the first quarter. And then they lose the asset for nothing. It's just like, what in the world was the point of all this? It's like watching a good TV show, and then at the end, they just they just ruin the ending. It's like, what? Like, you could have at least, again, 2-year deal. Maybe you trade him, and then you keep this thing moving. But to lose the asset for nothing, and I still think it's a good asset. I mean, he took Brook Lopez he literally made Brook Lopez unplayable in that playoff series against Milwaukee. He was the best big in that Cavs series in a double big lineup for the Cavs. He had a really good first 2 rounds. Did he run out of gas at the end? Yeah, probably. Ultimately, I think the OKC is just a tough matchup for any big. But like we saw, Jokic was struggling to get 40, 20, and 10. Now that's Jokic, but nonetheless, it was a tough 40, 20, and 10 for Jokic. And Miles Turner is not Nikola Jokic. So the Thunder are just a tough team. They got the double big lineups. And yeah, he had a rough finals. He had a rough Game 7, obviously. But to lose the asset for nothing is just brutal. It seems like we're dunking on the Pacers here, but there's no way they get to 39 wins, right? There's just no chance.
No,
so
there's no way.
It's an under for me, unfortunately. And I respect the Pacers a lot. It's a gap year. They'll be back next year. They'll be fine. Still want to see a center that's not Jay Huff and James Wiseman and Isaiah. It's not enough here. But this year is gonna be rough.
Mike, I realize I messed up here. So the next team
is
actually the Boston Celtics. I did. I don't know how I did that on our sheet. That's a light typo by me, because again, the sheet I was looking at was the ESPN sheet where it was the experts over unders. And then their ESPN bet projected over unders. Right. So I believe Boston was there on the pro over unders instead of the projected over unders. So we will be doing Boston next year. 40 and a half. Obviously, no Jason Tatum's the story here. At worst, top 5 player in the NBA, just gone again for nothing because of injury. And the starting 5 here, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Jaylen Brown. And then this is where it gets fun, because your 4 and 5s are in such flux. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Chris Boucher, and we're on Hoops Hype right now. It says Neemias Queta is the 5. From everything I've heard, I believe it's going to be Luka Garza is going to be the starting center. From what I've heard, we'll see. Obviously, preseason kicks off tonight, so we'll see how it goes the next few weeks. But I believe it'll be Garza as that starting 5, probably playing some kind of platoon style with Queta. And then as far as the depth is concerned, Anthony Simons comes in exchange for Drew Holiday. Sam Hauser's still around somehow. Who knows? I expect him to be gone somewhat soon, but we'll see. Baylor Shireman year 2. Hugo Gonzalez is the draft pick. Josh Minot comes over. It's just a team really all over the place. But someone has to win games in this stupid conference.
Oh, no.
And I'm going over on the Boston Celtics. And this is not a homer pick, as some might expect, because I can be very pessimistic, particularly about the Boston Celtics in their history. But the problem with this is just look at the team and look at their 3 best guys and go through. Their 3 best guys are simply better than, I'd say, 90% of the Western Eastern Conference 3 best guys.
Who are the 3 best guys? It's Jaylen Brown. It's
Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and it doesn't matter if you put in Simons or Pritchard. It doesn't matter. You can put in either. And that three is better than a lot of these other threes. That's it. That's as simple as I'll go with it. Is the depth terrible? You bet. The depth is really bad. And not only is the depth bad, the center position alone is bad. Neemias Queta had a great Eurobasket, if you're into that, for Portugal. Was just apparently carrying Portugal throughout Eurobasket. So that's something. Luka Garza has been dominating the G League for a while. Finally, he's getting his big break in the NBA. We'll see what happens there. It's just one of these teams where I don't really care what the bench looks like. If you just go through their assets, which are Pritchard, White, Brown, as we just mentioned, and then Simons. I like Shireman particularly. I thought he played good minutes for them at the end of last year. That's a key phrase we'll say this entire time, the end of last year. Yeah. One of the only key predictors for a season. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then Hauser, that's a good 7 guys right there. That's a legit NBA 7 guys. You have the 4 really high-end upside guys. You have the few depth pieces, and then you have kind of the second-year swing guy. I think that's legit. If you can just get anything, literally anything, out of the Boucher, Queta, Garza trio, you are flying over 40.5 just based off the conference. The problem is getting anything out of those guys is really, really asking a lot. Getting anything of any kind out of those guys is asking quite a bit. But I think Mazzulla is decent enough of a coach where I've seen him kind of mask a lot of the problems that this team's had. He just got Luke Cornett paid. I think Luke Cornett's a pretty good player. Do I think he's a good enough player to be getting like an absolute bag in playing next to Wemby? I don't know. We pitched a lot better guys to be in that next to Wemby role, but it ended up being Cornett. And I think a lot of that had to do with coaching from this Celtics team. I think they can coach up Queta to be a below average and not abysmal NBA center. I think they can coach up Boucher to just be a viable starter in this league. I'm going over. You hate it. I know you hate it, but let's hear it.
No, I'm just laughing at like I love the idea of Neemias Queta being a quality NBA center. I love the idea of it. I truly did not know who this team's bigs were. I had to look it up. I said, I know they lost Horford. I know they lost Porzingis. I know they lost Luke Cornett, the greatest closeout big man in the history of the NBA. So I know they lost all those guys, and I was like, who are their bigs now? And I saw Luka Garza as like a possible starter, and I was like, I'm out. I can't do this. I can't do Luka Garza possibly being like a platoon starter for this team. I was like, this feels like a reset. I'm like, okay, they're not actually they're going to shoot a lot of threes. No doubt about that. They have the identity. Credit to your team. You're going to shoot a lot of threes. The quality of those threes won't be very good because there's no Jason Tatum, unfortunately, who's a top 5 player in the NBA. So Anthony Simons will be fun. He'll be a fun quad box guy for my league pass. I don't understand.
He's going to be chucking some gross shots this year.
It's some
gross Anthony Simons shots are coming your way.
Hey, it's going to be threes, so Mazzulla is going to like it, but it's not going to be that much quality threes. There's going to be a lot. I mean, look, I've watched a lot of Anthony Simons.
Mike, don't be surprised if RJ Lewis gets a smidge of run. Just a smidge of run.
I had him written
on
in
this team.
Yeah, I know. The depth is that terrible to the point where I actually included RJ Lewis from the former Big East Player of the Year, RJ Lewis, with the Johnnies. So I was just like, here's my problem with the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference specifically. This trio of big men, Xavier Tillman, Chris Boucher, Queta, Luka Garza, you're going up against Milwaukee, who's got Giannis and Miles Turner, probably the best front court in the Eastern Conference. You're going up against maybe a healthy Joel Embiid, in the Eastern Conference. You're going up against double bigs, Mobley and Jared Allen in the Eastern Conference. You're going up against Karl-Anthony Towns, and hey, you want to throw Mitchell Robinson in there? Fine. So the good teams in this conference all have good big guys. And Boston has like no good big guys. There's no one on this big. I mean, you just laid it out right there. Can they squeeze out every ounce of Luka Garza and Queta? That's the pipe dream right now for the Celtics in the Eastern Conference, because that's really what we're hoping for here in the Eastern Conference with actual good big guys. This is gonna be a lot of matchup problems. I feel like on a night to night basis in the Eastern Conference. I know there's a lot of bad Eastern Conference teams, but there's some good big guys in the Eastern Conference. And I don't really see how Boston's matching up with those teams specifically. They're gonna have to really vulture against like the Wizards and the Nets of these. They're gonna have to really vulture wins from those teams, because I think
that's what's gonna happen. To be honest, that's kind of where I'm banking off.
It's the only way they get to, because they're not beating Cavs and Knicks, and they're just not gonna compete.
No, but I think some of these better teams, so like in Atlanta and Orlando, teams that have like firmly better projections than them, I think they can compete with that level of team just based off the 3-point volume. So I think, even though this team is not very good, and again, I hate to keep saying this, in this Eastern Conference, they could easily win 42, 43 games. And that is a bad record. No doubt about it. But because of this Eastern Conference, I think because of their play style, because of their coaching, and because of, again, that like top three guys of White, Brown, and probably Simons. I'd say Simons is slightly better than Pritchard at this point in their careers. It is close, but I'm going to lean Simons there. I think that's better than what a lot of teams have. I truly do.
So you think Simons?
You don't really disagree with that, do you?
I like the Heat's big three more than look. If Anthony Simons is a big three, I think Tyler Hero, Norm Powell, and Bam Adebayo have all made an All-Star game, or maybe Norm Powell hasn't made an All-Star game, but no. I'm not so sure. Look, I've seen Tyler Hero and I've seen Norm Powell in a playoff series. I'm not sure. I haven't seen Anthony Simons in a play in game. I have no idea if Anthony Simons is good. I think he's a tank commander at this point. I thought Boston brought him in to chuck threes and lose a bunch of games. That's what I thought they brought him in for. So if he's a big three, I'm a little worried. Yes, I'm a little worried. I love Derek White. I think,
but don't you think he's so obviously a guy on a serious team that could just level up his play and be, at least if nothing else, like a Norman Powell?
No, I think he's like a Jordan Poole. You're gonna need like a.
You think he's that destructive? I've watched him a ton. I've seen him in person a few times because obviously I went to school in Oregon, so I got to see him in person a few times. Yeah. And there were times where I thought it was Jordan Poole destruction for sure. But there's other times where I thought he really tried to play within Chauncey Billups' offense. But if you just look at what he dealt with in Portland, they were never trying to win. It was never really serious. And when they were, he was too young.
Is Boston trying to win?
I think Joe Mazzulla is. I don't know if the organization is. I don't know if Brad Stevens is. I don't know if the new ownership group is. I'm not sure of that. I'm really not. But I think Joe Mazzulla is, yeah. And I think he'll hold him accountable, which Billups didn't. I think if he's going to be a good NBA player and if he's going to be impactful to winning, it'll happen in Boston.
Of course. No doubt about that. It would happen on a serious franchise. My issue is I'm not so sure Boston wants to win this year. I think that this is similar to, this might be like a gap. Remember the bubble where they made the deep run? They basically had no offseason, and they were a little bit bad the year after that. They were like a play-in team. They beat the Wizards in the play-in, whatever it was. This seems like a team that, if they're actually a lottery team and can maybe get some lottery luck, I think that would be more beneficial to them than being like an 8 seed and losing in the first round. Like, why would they want to do that? The moves they've made have signaled to me that they're not actually going to try and win the championship.
Well, two things, Mike. One, I think perhaps you're right as far as the organization does it, but I just find it incredibly hard to believe Joe Mazzulla won't be trying to win every single night.
That's fair.
We'll see how that clashes, but I think they will get the best out of these guys. I don't think Joe Mazzulla has an off. But in two, and I really want to say this, Jason Tatum is not coming back this year. I love that guy with all my heart. He's one of my favorite athletes of all time. He is not coming back. Can we stop with this? And I want him to come back. Truly, I do. But the risk reward here of Jason Tatum coming back is idiotic. And we've heard 5 different timelines already. We've heard he's progressing at a superhuman rate. Okay, sure. We've heard he's coming back around the All-Star break. We've heard he's coming back around March. We've heard he already has a date in place. Whatever the situation may be. Here's the problem, and this happens every time, and this happened a few weeks ago. Someone told me, hey, Joe Burrow's coming back, right? And I said, no. And they were like, wait, but I thought it was only a few months. I said, yeah, the problem is in a few months, the Bengals are going to be out of contention, and there was no point to risk further injury when the injury that was suffered has a high chance of re-injury immediately after. That's the problem. Same with an Achilles. An Achilles is a high chance of re-injury immediately after the fact. It just does. In a few months, he'll be probably totally fine. And because he is young and because he is rehabbing so hard, I do expect him to come back the same. I really do. I don't think he'll lose anything. I think he'll be 98% of who he was. I think that is fine to say.
Yeah, we agree there.
Yeah. But coming back in March when this team at best is going to be like the 7 seed in the East, what's the point? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
even if they have a good year, Mike, that's a good year for this team, like 6, 7 seed. But if they're anything below the 3 or 4 seed, what's the point? I understand if they're lingering around, let's say like they're the 4 or 5 in this Eastern Conference, I could see Jason Tatum saying, look, this conference is terrible. It is so bad. I know we're like the 4 or the 5 seed, whatever it may be, but if I come back, we can win a few games down the stretch, and I'm healthy for the playoffs, we can make an actual run, especially if you make some moves around the deadline with the idea of Tatum coming back, getting an actual center, maybe moving Simon to 2-for-1, getting 2 guys for the Simons asset. That's totally fine. Mm-hmm. That's just not going to happen. I don't think this team's that good. We agree on that part. So I just don't really understand this facade that Jason Tatum is going to come back in any possible way besides being on the bench with Deuce and just having a good time.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to be. The line is perfect to me because I think that this could be like, Yeah, at best, maybe they're a 7 seed.
It's the toughest line of any team, in my opinion.
Yes, because there's also a world where they're the Sixers last year, and they say, you know what, we're 5 games out of a playoff spot. Let's just pick the other direction to go in. Let's just say we're going to try and go for the lottery pick this year, because I believe they do have their pick. They do have their pick. 100%. Yeah, so that pick could be impactful. We saw the Sixers now, they have VJ Edgecombe. They could have went for that last play-in spot. I believe they were like 5 games behind Miami, who was the 10 seed for like a majority of the entire year. And they said, you know what, we're going to go in the other direction. We're going to just try and lose games, soft tank. Embiid's not coming back. We're going to shut him down for the rest of the year. He probably could have, but you never know with that injury. But so yeah, it's probably the same thing here with the Celtics. I think they're a little bit better than last year's Philly team. But that Philly team decided we're not going to be competitive at all this year. And Boston could easily make that decision in January and be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe let's just go ahead, and the trade deadline could be interesting. I mean, heck, they already moved off of your guy, Georges Niang, who you were flaunting around as like an all-time winningest NBA player. It's like, okay, well, if they have him, I guess maybe they win games by default.
That wasn't serious, but it was more of like, clearly Georges Niang's aura just leads to wins.
It just leads to wins, yeah, somehow. Yeah, I didn't think that was serious either, but I don't think Boston is like, the moves that Brad Stevens has made this year is, it's like, okay, this is a gap year. We're going to wheel and deal and set ourselves up for when Tatum does come back. We're going to be right back in the thick of this thing. But this year is, I'm going to go under because I think it's just a safer bet. I think it's more possibility that they just kind of like have a blow up year from hell than it is that they are an awesome, pesky, frisky 7 seed. So I'm going to go under. I had them at 40 and 42. So it's right at the line, but it's going to be, it could be one or two ways. They could fly over, or they could, submarine under.
Mike, we're going to talk about your adopted team, and we're going to lump them up with a different squad as well. Both the Bucks and the 76ers, both at 42.5. To me, they're both incredibly similar teams on a similar plane right now.
We're going to disagree.
As far as where they are. Okay.
Yeah. Here we go. I think we're going to disagree on both these teams. Yeah.
Well, let's find out. So Milwaukee, they're starting Ryan Rollins at the 1. That's your starting point guard on your adopted team, Ryan Rollins. The 2 is AJ Green. We were just talking about the Celtics starters, and then this front court is Ryan Rollins and AJ Green. Kyle Kuzma in at the 3. Giannis, of course, the 4, and then Miles Turner, the newly acquired 5.
Love it.
At center. As far as depth is concerned, Kevin Porter's still around. Cole Anthony comes in. Gary Trent's still there, as is Taurean Prince and Bobby Porter. Andre Jackson, another year of him. Amir Coffey comes in, allegedly a fun league pass guy, one person said one time. So that's what they're working at there. So it's just a team that, I think kind of blows, but it's the Eastern Conference.
Come on.
So I think they really stink, but it's the Eastern Conference and they have Giannis, so that's where I'm going to lean there. As far as the Sixers, they're starting Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Quentin Grimes, Paul George, Joel Embiid. Lowry's in town, as is Eric Gordon. Oubre's still around. Trendon Watford comes in. Andre Drummond's still the backup 5. Jaron McCain is there, but is hurt again, which is already a problem. Mike, did you know Money Bates is on this team? I did.
I saw that.
So we did this
2 hours ago. Yeah,
exercise.
Yeah, I learned today.
I just wanted to talk about these 2 teams in the same vein because, to me, they're both in similar junctures of they have this awesome superstar.
Yep.
Milwaukee feels a hell of a lot better about theirs than Philly does. Philly has the better depth. Milwaukee has the better star, and they have a better sidekick as far as play style and fitting into the team with Miles Turner than Paul George or even an Edgecombe or McCain for Embiid. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going over on Milwaukee and I'm going under on Philly.
No way.
And here is why. I don't like this Milwaukee team at all. I think this front court is genuinely offensive.
The backcourt's
the backcourt, excuse me. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah.
The front court's pretty sick. The backcourt is pathetic. It is arguably...
It's me and you.
It's a top 5 worst starting backcourt on a serious team that I can remember. It is that bad.
That's fine.
But I think Giannis is such a problem in this terrible Eastern Conference. If he can just get adequate play out of any of these guys, I think one of these guys of the Ryan Rollins, AJ Green, Kevin Porter, and Cole Anthony, Gary Trent, one of those 5 guys has to be decent enough to move into that starting lineup. I don't think Kuzma could possibly be any worse than he was last year for stretches. I think that's going to go down. And then you have Giannis and Miles Turner. I think this is like a 44-win team. I think in a normal year, this is an easy under, and I would tell you why Milwaukee should blow it up. But this is the 2025 East, so I'm going to buy into the overall top 3 player in the world and bank on him just really pushing this team up. Again, can it go the other direction? Of course it can. But I think one of these kind of teams I dislike in the East has to play above their means. On the flip side, for Philly, without Embiid, what is this team? Even with the young guys that I like McCann a lot. I like Edgecombe. I thought Edgecombe was slightly overdrafted. I think he's really still a project guy. I think there's a lot of premature D-Wade comparisons that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. You saw those, right?
I was seeing Oladipo ones. I didn't see any D-Wade.
I think Oladipo's the soft comp.
Okay, D-Wade. I mean, let's slow down here.
That's kind of the next 2 or 3 levels above that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I thought Grimes was good when he got to Philly. Maxi's a fun player. But it's just, this team without Embiid's a 35-win team at best, if everyone's healthy. And that's a big if. Again, McCain has shown no ability to stay healthy at the NBA level. Edgecombe plays 100 miles a minute. I think injuries have to be a concern with him. Paul George, a walking time bomb, of course. Who knows how many games he's going to play. So Philly, I can't trust it. Even in this East, I just simply cannot trust it. I will go under on them again. I did it last year. People thought I was insane. Man, did that work out for me.
Yeah,
and I'm going to do it again here. And then the Bucks, a reluctant over.
Yeah, the Bucks are my Zag team. I like the Bucks this year. Cole Anthony has arrived. Gary Harris has arrived as well. You can throw him in that little hodgepodge of whatever shooters. I mean, you bake those guys into the roster with Gary Trent Jr., Ryan Rollins, Kevin Porter Jr. I think the big thing is you don't have to deal with Brook Lopez anymore. I said game one in that Pacers series, I said, hey, Doc, you can't play Brook Lopez in this series. It's just he's unplayable. He moves laterally at like 0.5x speed. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing. So he was really dampening their defense last year. I think this front court is really, really good. I think it's easily the best front court in the Eastern Conference. You got Giannis as that defensive hub, and then you got Miles Turner, who we've seen he can rim protect. He can kind of he's going to be good next to Giannis. It's an immediate upgrade for Brook Lopez, which I think is the big difference here. In a regular season, it would be offensive for me to take the under on a team that possesses the best player in the conference by a Grand Canyon-sized margin.
Mm-hmm.
In the Eastern Conference in 2025, it's Giannis, and then who's the next best player? Brunson? Is it Donovan Mitchell? I mean, like exactly. It's the size of a Grand Canyon as far as Giannis the next best player, because obviously there is no Halliburton, there is no Tatum. So I can't go
even if you're super into Brunson. Realistically, he's close. Probably the back of the 8, 9, 10 range at best.
Yeah,
right?
Same thing with Mitchell.
At best,
they're not close to. Mitchell is Mitchell's on Brunson's tier, but they're not even.
Giannis is at worst 3.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
And that's a big gap. Like
we're 10 is what are
if we're talking 31 and 43, that's not that big of a gap in the NBA currently.
Yeah,
but the gap between 3 and 8, 9, that is a big gap. That is truly an issue. So yeah, I agree with
after
that.
6, we're like, okay, who's the 7th best player? Because I think there's a clear 6, and then after that, it's a pretty big gap.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I can't do that because I think as long as Giannis is here, this regular season team, the Bucks are not going to be a bad regular season team as long as he's on the team. I mean, the roster could blow, and it very well could blow. The backcourt's nothing to hang.
It blows, yeah. No, it does.
Yeah, that's 100%. Fine. Okay. We don't want Kyle Kuzma still here. There's still some moves to be made. And look, Doc Rivers, playoff choker, but regular season he can get some wins here. We saw Doc Rivers. He's not the worst regular season coach in the history of in basketball. So as far as over-unders go, I think Milwaukee's a playoff team. I think they're definitely a top 6 team. I think I had them winning 44 games, 45 games. I had them at 45 and 37. So I think the Bucks, as long as Giannis is playing and he's healthy, which he is, I can't physically go under with the Bucks. I think this is it's tough for me because they need a point guard. I mean, they cannot trot into this season to be a serious, because you said they're a serious team. I'm not so sure they're a serious playoff team.
They're supposed to be a serious team. I don't think they're a serious team, but they're supposed to be.
Right, because they have the best player in the conference by a mile. So they should be a serious team. And if they were, you would bring in a point guard who you can at least play in a playoff series, which they currently do not have any. So there's a move to be made. Right now, I'm over on their regular season win total. I'm not over on them being a playoff contender. I think they believe they're a playoff contender. I think they believe that they can win a couple rounds like Indiana did last year. It's like a pesky 5 seed, whatever. They can't do that unless they bring in a serious point guard. They can't do it. I love Giannis. He can't carry this roster past the East, even in a bad East. There's just no chance. With Philly, I also went over. I can't trust them, but I went over as well. I know. Healthy Joel Embiid, if we get a healthy Joel Embiid. I mean, it's kind of an asterisk there. But, healthy Tyrese Maxey. Last year was the year from hell. Maxey was hurt. Paul George was terrible and hurt. Obviously, Embiid was hurt. Quentin Grimes was fun. Post-trade deadline move. That was a good move. They turned Caleb Martin into Quentin Grimes, and Quentin Grimes has been really, really good. I like Nick Nurse as a head coach. Drummond's still there, whatever. So you have some depth behind Embiid, but it's the Eastern Conference. Kelly Oubre is still around. I like Kelly Oubre. I mean, there's Jared McCain. When he's healthy, we like Jared McCain. So there's too many guys I like on the team that if they're on the court together at the same time, I would trust the over here. I think they're one of the 5 most talented teams in the East when they're, presently constructed and they're healthy, which is a huge if. So I'm obviously banking on health for Philly, but I think that last year was just a season from hell. They can't have 2 straight seasons from hell. Does it usually happen where they get 2 straight seasons from hell in the NBA? Usually there's like one bad one. I'm thinking about New Orleans last year. Could not have gone worse if you're New Orleans. Can they have back-to-back absolutely miserable? Here's the script for the worst possible season you could possibly have.
I don't think it's going to be the worst possible where it literally falls apart in the first 2 weeks. Yeah. But I just think it's going to be a slow burn. Embiid at best plays half the season. It's just going to be one of those slow burns where they're just going to fall short again. Because without him, the MVP centerpiece, what do you have? And we found out very quickly last year, not a lot. So
if he plays 44 games, this is an under, of course. But
yeah, what makes you think he has any chance of playing more than that?
Well, I don't know, but I'm banking on him playing at least 60.
Put a star next to the Sixers, folks. Put a star next to it. We'll come back. Mike's going to be like, I cannot believe I picked the over. How did I think that?
Look, I'm a Paul George guy. He can't have back-to-back terrible seasons, right? Can't.
Has to be a little bit better.
Exactly. I don't think he had a 30-point game at all last year. Zero 30-point games.
Speaking of a team, Mike, that people think might be a little bit better, I'm not so sure on. We're going to go kind of quick on this one. The Detroit Pistons, starting 5 of Cade, Jaden Ivey comes back from injury, Azar Thompson, Toby, and Jalen Duren at the 5. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but the loss of Malik Beasley is a massive deal. It just is. And we joked about it all season long, but it's the truth. And I think there was enough people at the end of the year that caught on, but we were kind of on the forefront of this take. The combination of Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley was like a top 10 player in the NBA on any given night. Just whichever one had flame shooting out of their rear end and was just going to score 25 and hit all their threes and jaw the other team. That was so valuable for this team last year. And both those guys are gone. And Beasley in particular is a massive loss for them because he was so important. He, for a lot of accounts, was the second best player on this team last year. Yeah. He really took up a step in the right direction as far as finally being this 3-point volume shooter that not only is efficient, but tries on defense. You heard a lot throughout his career that he's this point of attack defender. You never really saw it last year. Finally, with Detroit, that kind of Detroit ethos, he turned into that. And now it's just gone because of the investigation into him. Maybe they'll get him back if he's cleared. Spoiler alert, probably not. But we'll see. I like Ivy coming back. I think he could be loads of fun next to Cade. I do want to explore that deeper. I like Asar Thompson a lot. And Tobias Harris plays really hard for this team. And he's kind of the veteran nucleus of guys who can really, other people can rally around. I think that's really important. But the depth is not there. They bring in Duncan Robinson. I don't like that move. Oh. I didn't see enough from Shocker. I didn't see enough from Ron Holland last year to make me excited. I think the LeVert to Beasley thing, I think people think that that's kind of a apples to apples move. I don't at all. I think LeVert isn't the same caliber of player. I think that is a step in the wrong direction. I'm going to go a slight under. I don't think it's going to be much. I think this is like a 44-win team. I think it's going to be the ever so slightly under. I have them around this position of the firmly in group. I do think they'll be like the 5 or 6 seed. I just think they're going to go slightly under the 45.5 mark because even with the bad conference, losing Beasley and Hardaway, that kind of combined player is just too much, even with Ivy coming back.
I had to look at the number because I had them at 45 wins. I thought initially that was an over, but I saw it was 45.5. So I did have them on the under by a half a game. I don't think it's gonna be. Yeah, it's gonna be close because they did turn. Look, they turned Malik Beasley into Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. I don't love either of those guys.
I don't like that. Yeah,
I don't like that. Yeah, it's like that feels like a downgrade to me. Their big offseason acquisition though is Jaden Ivey. That's what they're just plopping back onto this. He played 30 games last year, so they didn't have him for this entire run they went on last year. Going from like not worst to first, but like one of the worst teams in the NBA to a pesky 6-game series against the Knicks, who almost won the conference. So they did all that without Jaden Ivey, again, who only played 30 games. It feels a little bit like, to me, the Indiana Pacers of 2024, where remember they didn't have Mathurin for that entire year where they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they kind of plopped him back into this roster this year, and he was like fun, kind of, until late in the playoffs where he wasn't fun anymore. So I think Jaden Ivey will be really fun next to Cade. I think the loss of Malik Beasley is ultimately the kicker here. I don't think they really recreated him in the right way with the money spent to Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. I'm not really into those guys. I was into Malik Beasley as a point of attack defender and a 3-and-D kind of player. So my problem is I think we're going to talk about Atlanta next. I like Cade Cunningham infinitely more than I like Trae Young, but I think I like Atlanta's roster more than I like Detroit. So I think I'm going to go under
100%.
on Detroit, and I don't want to do it because I actually like Jalen Duren too. So I like the pieces that Detroit has. I just don't. It was a weird offseason for me. It was an offseason I can't really get behind. I do think I still think they're a top 6 team in the East, but 45.5, that's a lot of wins. They can get to 46. I don't know. I know it's a bad East, so it's going to be a really sweaty, frisky last couple of games type of thing, but I think I'm going to lean under by a hair.
Here's a lean over by a hair because I've taken too many unders and I have to be over on someone, so I might as well keep the gimmick going. The Atlanta Hawks, my adopted team, I've been into the last few years. I've liked the pieces, and man, did they get more this offseason. The starting 5, Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Risache, Jalen Johnson, and Kristaps Porzingis. Depth, they bring in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That was a big move for some people.
Huge
Luke
move.
Kennard, Asa Newell comes in the draft. They still have Onyeka Okongwu.
Yep.
And that's pretty much the 10 right there that they're rolling with.
Jalen Johnson we like, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, and if Jalen Johnson's healthy, this is an easy over. Can he stay healthy? I don't know. Jalen Johnson was a guy last year before the season I was into as kind of a sneaky all-star pick, a most improved player candidate, and it looked like he was maybe not necessarily reaching that echelon of player, but he was at least in the neighborhood. He was looking at properties, and then, of course, he goes down. That's a big deal. I just like this 1 through 5. I'm not a Trae Young guy at all. That's the weird thing about being a Hawks shill, that I actually dislike their best player. But I do really like Dyson Daniels. I thought he was so fun last year, and I think he really is a true impact defender, point of attack on, off ball, and on ball, just hounding other guards. I think that's such a unique skill set that you don't really see in the modern NBA because, Mike, the deep boys go to the bigs now because of the rim running and their ability to kind of have gaudy numbers around the paint because of how many shots they are able to contest. And I understand that logic. But to me, it is way more impressive to be an on-ball attack defender. He actually does both on and off ball, but just hounding other guards and making their lives miserable. Those are often the best players on the floor, and he's taking them sometimes out of games. I think that's such a unique skill set that I really appreciate from Dyson Daniels. Reza Shea had a really good last 2-3 months. You've heard me say that a ton, but he did. Seriously. Jalen Johnson, really, really good player, as we talked about. And Porzingis, if he is actually healthy, which he claims he is, he had this mysterious illness, doesn't know what it is. It surely zapped all of his talent last year. It was really strange. If he's healthy, Boston probably at least makes the finals again, but it's just so weird. His injury couldn't have came at a worse time for them. And look, he's saying his injury is fine. His foot injury that he was dealing with through a lot of last year, his illness is fine. He's apparently good to go, and you can't trust him for the long term, but that's why you have Onyeka Okongwu in the wings. So I think they have an ability to play Porzingis kind of on a pitch count every night, just 20, 25 minutes a night. That's a really good luxury.
They can afford to. Yeah, they can afford to.
Yeah, you have Kennard and Naw as kind of those depth pieces. You don't like Reza Shea at all, but I thought there was something there. I really did. I think he's a big scorer that was really figuring it out from beyond the arc. And that's the thing. With this team, the three-point shooting's iffy. Jalen Johnson, not a great shooter. If Reza Shea can be a shooter, you have Trae, you have Reza Shea, you have Porzingis, you have Kennard coming off the bench. All of a sudden, you're getting that three-point volume up. That's super important nowadays, obviously, in the modern NBA. I just like this team. Look, I like them at like 47. I'm not going to go crazy with it. I think it's a super slight over. Again, I've just taken too many unders. I have to be over on somebody. So I'm going to choose the Hawks.
I didn't have an under or an over for this one. I said I'm going to default to X on his Hawks. So you're going over, so I'm going to go over. So we're going to agree here. I literally said I'm defaulting to whatever he does here. It feels like this was a pretty
I think that's decent logic, though, right? Like, we're under on a lot of these other teams.
Yeah.
This team just seemingly has enough cohesion and NBA players that are above average to be something.
I think they can do some cool things with this Trae Young, Porzingis pick and pop, assuming, again, Porzingis is healthy.
Yeah.
Health assuming. Na is like a really, really good player to pair alongside Trae Young. Like, we're not Trae Young guys, but I think putting him next to NAW is like really cool. Like, I'm interested to see how this does. He's another good defensive player. You put him, Dyson Daniels is a menace defensively. And he's a ridiculous.
They can run 3-yard lineups with Young, Daniels, and Na. That's kind of fun.
Right. You don't even have to like Trae Young, but you can like the defensive pieces around him for sure. I've always been an Onyeka Okongwu fan. So, you can have him there with Porzingis in that front court. Jalen Johnson, I'm still a fan of. I'm not going to give up on him. Luke Kennard, I think in this Quinn Snyder offense, I think he could be fun too. So there's a lot. I
thought he was like legit decent as a backup point guard last year for Memphis. We talked about it. We're like, wow, because people kept saying, and we'll get to Desmond Bane in a second, but people kept acting like Desmond Bane was kind of the orchestrator of that offense, and at points he was. But I thought Kennard, there was just a few games where I was like, wow, like Luke Kennard has the keys tonight. Like, this is kind of fun.
He was driving the car. But yeah, I think that Reese Shea, I think he blows. Well, again, I think he blows for a number 1 overall pick. Okay, let me just preface.
Sure, I think he's a good player, Mike. I think you're going to be surprised this year. I think he's a good player.
You think he's a good player? I think he's the French Alan Crabb. We'll see how it goes. But I think I like him in this.
God!
Look, Atlanta has Alan Crabb as their like 9th guy. It's fine. I think the roster is good to the point where I don't think Reese Shea has to be the number 1 overall pick on a given. He's not going to have.
That's crazy. French Alan Crabb is.
That's what he is. I'm sorry. What does he do?
Oh my God!
I
thought he was a really good scorer. That he was having those like 30-point games. Like, I thought he was really tearing the leather off the ball, and he was getting to his spots. Like, it's going to take him time. Alan Crabb stunk, dude. Come on. He was fun in 2K. He was a bad actual NBA player.
Okay.
Come on.
My point is, I think that Atlanta in this Eastern Conference with no Tatum, no Halliburton, I'm going to default to you and say that they can get their over. I'm always weird picking Atlanta. Atlanta overs are always tough for me because they always kind of fall. They always underwhelm.
They're always right around it every time.
Everyone says it every time. It's like, I'm not taking Atlanta. I can't do it anymore. I'm done with them. I've never been into them, so this year I'm kind of into the roster. So I'm gonna go reluctant over because you went reluctant over.
Mike, the Magic, the Desmond Bane team.
Yeah.
51.5 is the over-under. Starting 5. Suggs, Bane, Wagner, Banchero, and Wendell Carter Jr. As far as depth goes, they bring in Tyus Jones. They draft Chase Richardson. Tristan Da Silva is still around, as is Jonathan Isaac somehow. Mo Wagner's back healthy. They still have Black, of course. And then Jet Howard is still lurking around. Noah Penda, another draft pick. And then Goga as more depth for the front court. This is an under, and look, someone's going to be good in the East, I guess. Like, I keep saying this, I guess. I actually feel better about the Hawks than I do the Magic. I think this is so fake. I think this is so fake, and I like these guys. I like Paolo. I'm probably Franz's biggest cheerleader. I'm like the number 1 guy on Franz Island. I have a fort. We have pickleball in the back, which I don't even use because I use the tennis court adjacent to that. Yeah. That's how big of a Franz Wagner guy I am.
I'm not even there.
But
I don't even know. I'm not.
It's just this team construction just makes no sense to me. This team needed scoring so bad, Mike. They needed scoring so bad. Okay, last year when John Morant was out, the Grizzlies needed scoring really bad. They really needed scoring. Desmond Bane, can you please score? You know what Desmond Bane couldn't really do as much as the Grizzlies really wanted him to was score at a high level. I think this team is just more of the same. Is Desmond Bane better than KCP? Obviously, right? And I think Paolo's going to take a step in the right direction. I thought Franz was really hot and cold last year. I expect him eventually to kind of taper out and just be a consistently above average player. I love Jalen Suggs. That's not new. I really like a lot of these guys. But as a team, who's scoring the basketball? That's still a question with this team. And defensively, I think Bane's a fake good defender. I think Suggs is really good, but I think it depends on his health. I think Wagner's mediocre, and I think because of the offensive prowess that Banchero has to have on this team, he can't really engage on that end. And Wendell Carter's fine. He's not great defensively. He's fine at best, if not a little below average. So I think this defensive identity team got worse defensively. And then offensively, they're still not there yet. So I don't really know what they're supposed to be. You're basically banking on Paolo being Jason Tatum. And I think there's a world where that kind of happens. But I think we're still not there yet because his shot's still kind of lacking. I think that's really important. I think teams will start to play bigger guys on him because he's a driver. But I think you saw it a lot against the really good teams. They kind of put a 4 or a 5 on Paolo and say, just come in the paint. And then when you're going to kick it out, you're kicking out to guys that can't really shoot.
Terrible shooter.
Yeah. And that was kind of the MO at Paolo against really good teams at the end of the year. And if he wasn't superhuman, that was it. So I'm out on the Magic. I just am. I think it's a decent team. I think it's a fun team. Any like fringe title stuff that's being tossed around, totally fake, totally out on. Sorry, Cerruti. It's an under.
We disagree on the Magic. No, we agree on the under, but we disagree on how we got to the under, I think. You like Atlanta more than Orlando. I don't think I can get there with you.
Well, I don't know if Atlanta will have a better record than Orlando.
Okay.
But I think I understand Atlanta's philosophy on how they're going to play basketball significantly more than I do Orlando's.
I like this team a lot. It's similar to... Now, again, it's a very large number. 50. I don't think they're going to win 4 of the 50 games. That's a lot of wins for them.
It's a lot of wins.
It feels like, though, they had the perfect pickups this offseason. I mean, they needed guys who could get them into their offense, and a perfect guy for that is Tyus Jones. Just get you into your offense. A lot of the time last year, the Magic offense looked lost. It was a lot of... But,
Mike, who is he getting into the offense? That's my problem.
Someone has to set Paolo Banchero up, and a lot of it was
Paolo
Banchero.
Okay.
No, that's what I'm saying. Last year, a lot of Orlando's offense
that's fine. That's a fine take.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Last year, Orlando's offense in the half court was give Banchero the ball and figure out what to do on this possession. No one was setting up Banchero's shots. Banchero had to set up other people's shots, and you just mentioned no one could shoot on the team. Nobody can make a lick of a shot. Franz Wagner couldn't really shoot last year. I mean, the shot was not, it was up and down. So can Franz Wagner like get a consistent jumper? Obviously, can Banchero get a consistent jumper? Because the Orlando just jump shooting team, they weren't that team. They were shooting in the 20% from 3 last year. It was pathetic. So you get in Desmond Bane, who you can. Obviously, he's a better shooter than KCP. KCP had bad numbers last year. Probably not the defender that people make him out to be. But Tyus Jones can get you into your offense. They just need stability in their offense. In half-court offense, they looked completely disheveled. It was Banchero, figure it out. It's in every single Magic possession last year. It was like under 5 seconds on the shot clock. And it was like, where is this going offensively in the half-court? Like I was shocked they won how many games they did last year because they couldn't score. They could not score the basketball. They were an awesome defensive team. They were top 5 in defensive rating last year. They probably still will be. I know they lost. I mean, you get Jalen Suggs in there, and those guys healthy. Jonathan Isaac's still there. Like those are good defenders. The Magic will be a fine defensive team. They might get a little bit worse, but in the Eastern Conference, they'll be fine defensively. They'll be a more than adequate top 10 unit again defensively. I need to see more out of Franz Wagner to be a true second banana, like consistent second banana, before I just pencil them in for 52 wins. Like I can't do that in good faith. And I liked their offseason. I think Jace Richardson's a good first round draft pick. I think he adds again scoring to a team that needs scoring. Desmond Bane.
Yeah, he could score. That's for sure.
Yeah, Desmond Bane, while he didn't really score much last year at consistent level, he's playing with Banchero, who I believe is a above average like playmaker in a half court setting.
He attracts more attention.
He attracts more attention than anyone I met, like Jaren Jackson Jr. When he was playing without John Morant, there really was no
even than Ja, to be totally honest.
Right, exactly. Banchero more so than Ja. So I think Bane's probably playing with a player that can maximize his I didn't love giving up a bunch of first-round picks for Desmond Bane, but it can certainly work. We've seen worse trades. I mean, Mikal Bridges went for a 5 first-round pick. So, we've seen worse, but Magic are going for it. Whether they're a playoff team, seriously, like a serious playoff threat in the East, I'm not so sure. And I do like their under, but I'm not like out on them. I just think it's a big number. Like I like the team. I'm in on Orlando. I'm out on this number. It's too many wins for me. I think the hype is high on Orlando.
Not only am I out on the number, I just don't really get the philosophy of how this team is going to be really good. I think they're just going to kind of be more of the same. I liked the moves in a vacuum. I just think they needed more. I think that was kind of my whole thing. They just needed more because of how inept they were offensively. Did they need more in the East? I
mean, look, they were a 7 seed last year in a good East. I mean, not a good East, but like in a better.
It was kind of a mid East.
It was actually a very mid East. But it's going to be probably better than this year's East. This year's East is gross. So did they have to get?
Yeah, they can be the 4 seed. They can be 3 slots better in a bad East and still go pretty comfortably under.
Yeah, of course.
So I think that's where we're at with them.
That's fine.
This one should be really easy, Mike. It's the Knicks. It's 53.5. Brunson, OG.
Is this easy?
Mikal. Mikal's still holding down that 3 slot.
Yeah.
Josh Hart and Karl Anthony Towns are their starting 5. They bring in a lot of like weird depth. They bring in Brogdon.
Really?
Shamit's back. Garrison Matthews is in town.
The Dancing Bear is there, isn't he?
Yabusele they brought in, you bet. Jordan Clarkson as well.
Yeah, they brought in
Deuce
some guys.
McBride still hanging around town. Mitchell
Yeah.
Robinson is too. Tyler Kolek for your deep bench folks. This is an over based off of everyone else. It's that simple. Based off everyone else, it's an over. They play hard every night. The team's still really good. Is it a title contender? We'll save that for a few videos down the line.
Or 3 maybe.
But 54 wins, that should be pretty easy. I'm not going to lock it just because 54 is still a lot, all things considered. And if it was a fully healthy East, I think I'd have a different tune on them. But they're going for it, all things considered. And they just have way too much talent compared to everyone else in this East. So it's a pretty easy over.
That's what I said. I said I like Mike Brown, but is firing Tibbs and then hiring Mike Brown actually going to fix the offense? Like, are they actually going to move the ball, or is it going to be more of the ball sticking with Jalen Brunson?
No, it's still going to be sticky. But if it's sticky against the Indiana Pacers with their core, does it matter? Not really.
No,
it doesn't really matter.
As far as if they can win a title, this will tell me all I need to know about the Knicks. Like, whether or not the ball is still sticking with Jalen Brunson for 20. If he's still dribbling the air out of the ball, then I'll know all I need to know with the Knicks. And bringing in Mike Brown was just...
I can't envision him not doing that, can you?
Right, but the whole point of firing Tibbs and bringing in Mike Brown was to get some ball movement in the offense. Player movement and ball movement. They lost to a team that Indiana just pieced them up as far as...
But is Brunson even that effective if he doesn't have the ball? My answer is no. I don't think he's like this great off-ball guy. I think he... As a threat, as a decoy, I guess you can go that argument, but the Knicks are the Knicks because of Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, you cannot win a title that way. That style of offense.
Well, that's I think the entire point. I think that's the entire dichotomy that they're working with.
They're trying
Brunson
to win a title.
Can't be a 1A on a title team,
of course.
But the only way the Knicks are good is if you treat Brunson like he's a 1A on a title team. So that's kind of what we're at with them.
Brunson led the league in time possession the last 2 years. I do love the roster more than pretty much everyone else in the East, maybe besides.
I think they can make the final. You think they can make the finals at least, right? Because of the East.
Can they make the finals? Yes, but I'm hearing all this. Oh, they hired Mike Brown and they let go of Tom Thibodeau. The whole point of that was to get some ball movement in the offense. So if they're not going to do that, then what was the point of that hire? And what was the point of, like, they're not a title team?
I think they're just banking on addition by subtraction. I truly do. I think Tibbs ran his course. They think Tibbs ran his course. They thought it was just too taxing on the players. The playing your OGs 44 minutes a night for no reason against Charlotte in February in a game you're up 20. I think they can really talk themselves into, if that kind of stuff doesn't happen, they'll be more fresh for the postseason. They'll at least make the finals. That'll be massive for the city. Will they win it? We both.
But are they going to
really have a chance? But
but are they going to play like the Sacramento Kings when Mike Brown was there a couple years ago and they were fun and frisky?
No, I don't think they'll do that. Not going to
play that way. Okay, so now that being said, because I liked a lot of the moves the Knicks made. I like getting Yabusele. I thought Jordan Clarkson was the guy I penciled in when I was watching the playoffs last year. I said, the Knicks could use a guy like Jordan Clarkson, so you're not having to go to Cam.
100%.
Because when Brunson sat, you were bringing in campaign and
too much campaign, man. Way too much campaign.
9 minutes of campaign was too much. 9 minutes of campaign, you lose the playoff series when you bring in campaign for 9 minutes. It's too much campaign. So you bring in Clarkson, who's a microwave kind of hot streaky shooter. He can score the basketball. He can fill it up. You need someone who can score the basketball when Brunson sits, because when Brunson sat, their offense was just gone. And defensively, we know Cat's kind of a liability in space. He can pick up some dumb fouls. He's tough guarding anyone really in space. So defensively, whatever, but I'm talking about from the offensive side. Mike Brown was brought in to do something that the Knicks had not been able to do the last couple of years. That was the point here. So if they're going to play the exact same way, Mitchell Robinson, another guy who's kind of injury prone, can he stay healthy? The guys on the team I actually like. The roster is good. It's definitely good enough to win the Eastern Conference. But as far as it's weird because we're saying that they can win the East and they're not a serious title threat. That's what's so crazy about this. I don't think they're a serious title threat unless they play. I don't think they can win a title dribbling the air out of the ball of not even a 1A kind of guy. Like we've seen James Harden try to win this way. We've seen Luka Doncic try to win this way. One of those guys made a finals playing this style of basketball. But can you really win a championship with one player taking 20 out of 24 seconds of the shot clock, just dribbling the air out of the ball with minimal ball movement and player movement and no actual half court creation? It's one guy getting to his spots, drawing a foul. It's not much of a lot of 2-man game with Cat sometimes, but a lot of times it was just Mikal Bridges standing in the corner.
They just get away from it for so long. The 2-man game with Cat.
And that's by the way, that the rhythm of the offense is ruined. Because how many times did OG Anunoby just sit on a wing and wait to take a catch and shoot three, or Mikal Bridges get like underneath the basket, going from sideline to sideline, just taking corner shots.
And when those guys aren't wide open by 10 feet, all of a sudden their 3-point percentages tank, which I think people don't really understand.
Right. So the offense for the Knicks, I'm going to be interested to see how it actually like changes, if it does at all. If it doesn't, then whatever. They'll still probably go.
Oh, it's going to change, I think, fundamentally, and I think the playing of the minutes thing that was such a talking point is going to actually help them. Yeah. But long term, yeah, I mean, we'll get into the title nucleus in a few weeks.
I think Mike Brown has a better chance with this roster than Tibbs did last year. I mean, Tibbs, what did you want Tibbs to do? He had to go to campaign because there was nobody else. DeLon Wright. So Tibbs didn't have a guy like Jordan Clarkson to go to in a playoff series whenever you needed scoring. So Mike Brown will have more options. Ultimately, I'm not so sure. Is he a better coach than Tibbs? I have no idea. So we'll see. I think they're probably the same time.
I'd venture to say no, but it might not matter because sometimes you just need to be a better coach for the team.
Yeah, it's the 2025.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Look, it's the Eastern Conference in 2025. We're kind of just making stuff up as we go now because they might not have to even change anything and probably still go over in this Eastern Conference. So it's an over for me. I'm not going to lock it for any. No, but it's an over.
We're going to wrap up with the final team. Another team we probably won't spend a ton of time on, the Cleveland Cavaliers. 56.5 is a lot. It is a lot. I really, really wanted to go under, but someone has to win a lot of games. One of these teams is probably going to benefit from how bad this conference is. Yeah. I thought about just making it the Knicks and then taking the under on the Cavs. I think the more realistic possibility, even though I don't really like this team, is that they both just take advantage of it. Cleveland also goes over. You have Cleveland and New York as the firm 2, and then a massive drop-off under that. The starting 5, allegedly Lonzo is going to be the starting point guard. No. Allegedly. Then it's Mitchell, Hunter, Mobley, Allen. Obviously, Garland's still hurt. He'll come back relatively
How is he still
early,
hurt?
I think. I don't know.
What in the world happened? Is the toe again?
It's the worst toe injury in human history.
In the history of the NBA? What is happening? Okay.
We'll see what happens with him. I really don't know his injury status, but regardless, I don't think it really matters in this East right now as long as he's healthy. Oh, okay. As long as he's healthy in a few months, yeah. I mean, the East is that bad. And I don't really like the bench. It's Craig Porter, it's Sam Merrill, it's Dean Wade, it's our guy Thomas Bryant. Yeah, he's there. They're bringing in the Proctor. We like if Garland's back in short succession, which I don't see why he wouldn't be at this point, it's Garland, it's Mitchell, it's Mobley, it's Hunter. You're going to win 56 games in this East easily, and then you just need a few more. It's a reluctant over, but someone has to win like 58 games in this East. I think it just has to happen. One team will simply be too much for these other bottom feeders, like the first 5 or 6 teams we mentioned, to not take advantage.
I had them at 56 wins, so I had them as just a slight under. Maybe the wins just go out of the West. I mean, maybe this was what we're gonna. I went under on the Cavs, and I don't feel good about it because obviously someone's got to get wins here. It's just a lot of wins to get. I mean, 57 wins is a lot of wins. I'm not
ton of wins.
Yeah, here's the thing with the Cavs. I think that they were such a dominant regular season team last year. Maybe the focus more for them this year is going to be mostly postseason success.
I thought the exact same point, actually. I almost brought that up, Mike, because they don't really need to do let's win 60-something games again. They
wanted to get the number 1 seed in a hypothetical series against Boston. They wanted that 1 seed so bad. They don't have to really even try the regular season in the Eastern Conference. They'll still win 50-plus games in this East, so they'll be fine. They don't have to even take
But maybe the logic is, you're playing New York. That's the team you really have to be. Do you try to get the 1 seed in a New York series? MSG is a really tough place to play.
I saw Indiana
allegedly, unless you're Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the Knicks lose with home court the last 2 seasons in the playoffs, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean that's true. I just think sometimes, especially early in the series, you've seen
the last 2 seasons.
You've seen some of these other teams come in and clearly get affected by that MSG crowd.
That's fair.
So again, this Knicks team's better, bigger stage, later in the playoffs. Presumably, if it is an ECF matchup, you probably want that home court. That's all. I can see them at least maybe not taking it off, maybe taking their foot back a little bit, but still, Cleveland's had such a terrible history. I think they still want to win games. I still think that's a focus for this team. They still want to have good regular seasons and kind of build a culture here.
I think my point would just be I don't think that they could not win a series as the 2 seed against the Knicks as a 1 seed. I think the Knicks, last 3 years, the Knicks have lost. Whenever they got eliminated, they've gotten eliminated as the team with the home court advantage. They lost to Miami in 23 as the 4 seed when Miami was the 8 seed or whatever it was, or they were the 5, whatever it was. And then the last 2 years, they lost to Indiana, both being with the home court advantage. So, the Knicks are whatever. But the Cavs, of course, they still want the number 1 seed. I still think they're going to get the number 1 seed. I think they're a little bit better than the Knicks, just barely. But again, they lose Ty Jerome, which I'm not losing sleep over because after that first round against the Heat, Ty Jerome kind of just disappeared. So he's now in Memphis. Good luck with him. But they bring in, Larry Nance, Thomas Bryant. They no longer have Isaac Okoro, which I'm good with that. We did not need to see any more Isaac Okoro.
No, it stopped working so long ago, and they just kept trying to make it work because of where they drafted him, which I understand.
Yeah, that's fine. But ultimately, this is what the Bulls need to do with Patrick Williams. Like, you drafted him high, enough's enough. We don't have to see more of it. The Cavs said, okay, we don't need to see any more Isaac Okoro. That's fine. It's a slight under for me, and I'm not even going to spend too much time on it because I think that they might have a move to make too. I mean, is Jared Allen on this roster come April or playoff? Right? Do they need Jared Allen for this playoff run? I don't love Jared Allen in the playoffs. He kind of
I don't either. I mean, this might be the last year they keep this
experiment is
together.
Can they win a title with Jared Allen as their starting center next to Evan Mobley? I don't know if they can.
Next to Mobley, no. If it was just Allen and they had like a legit 4, maybe, but not together. I don't think.
Right, and Mobley's taking a step up. Obviously, he was in defensive player of the year. Did he win the defensive player of the year award, or was he runner up? I think he was runner up last year, or maybe he won it. I don't know. But Mobley's obviously
won it, and Daniels was runner.
Daniels runner up. That's right. We just talked about. Yeah, I think Daniels should have won it, but whatever. It doesn't matter. They always give it to the bigs mostly. But I'm going to go under on Cleveland, but it's by 1 game. I had them at 56 wins, and the line is 56. It's similar to Detroit. It's a slight under for me because they didn't really do much for. Again, it's just the East, so it's tough to talk about here. But the East is that bad that I would not be surprised if they do go over because someone has to get these wins. Someone's winning 60 games. Maybe it'll be them again.
We're just going to go through a quick recap, and stop me if you want to add a lock to any of these. So we're going to start from the top. Yeah, so let me know. We both had Wiz over. We both had Nets under. It is a lock for me.
A lock under
Hornets. 20. You went lock over, which was probably the surprise of the entire podcast. Yeah. I went over as well. Bulls were a lock over for me. They were a slight over for you. Yep, the Heat, you went over. I went under. The Raptors, you went under. I went over.
That'll be fun.
For the Pacers, we both went under. I had a lock on that. It's probably my favorite pick of the entire thing.
I'm not going to lock it because it's Rick Carlisle, but you're talking me into a possible lock. It might be a lock.
Okay. I'm glad
just give me 2 weeks on Indiana. I'll see them in 2 weeks, and I'll probably change my tune, maybe. But.
Okay. All right. Celtics under for you. Slight over for me. Mm-hmm. We both had the Bucks over. The 76ers you had over. I had it under. I teased locking it. I'm not going to do so because the East is simply too bad.
The Phillies and
we were both under on the Pistons.
Yep.
We both had the over on the Hawks. That was good unison there.
Yeah, defaulting. Yeah.
The Magic we both had as unders. The Knicks we both had as overs. And then we split on the Cavs. You had an ever so slight under, and I had the over. And that is your Eastern Conference preview. Final words, Mike. Like, it is just all-time bad, right? Like, this is going to be impossible to really analyze in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be really strange. I mean, once we get to League Pass up here, I'm getting to see Reggie Miller on an NBC game calling some Bulls Cavs games. The East is gonna be it's gonna be a mess, but it's gonna be tough to analyze. Like, we'll have to talk about the East a few more times. It's like, okay, who's good? Because we don't know right now. We'll find out in a month. Maybe who's a frisky first couple weeks team. It's like, oh, maybe they'll have a nice season, but I don't know. It's a wide open conference. I don't think is there a single team that can win the title in this conference? In your title pie, is anyone in the East getting more than 10%?
The Knicks are there out of respect to the talent level, but I'm not putting them high.
There might be
and
behind
then Cleveland, maybe the slightest sliver in the world.
Yeah, I think I had when I did my title pie. I think I had Cleveland and New York with a slice, but I think I had them behind like 3 or 4 West teams. Maybe 5 West teams. I don't. It was like they were like 6 or 7 or 8 in the title pie threat. So it wasn't like top 5 odds. I don't think for them. So someone's gonna win the Eastern Conference. I don't know who it's going to be. So we'll see. But the West is obviously the much more prominent conference. The West is going to be what I'm staying up to watch this year, obviously.
I couldn't agree more, especially now that I'm on the East Coast. Like, I will be up. I can't wait to watch just random, Lakers, Spurs. Like, that's going to be must-watch TV. Okay. Like, even like I
want to see
Dallas below the like top tier title contenders. I just want to see those kind of teams in the mix. Like,
I want to see Dallas this year.
Our Wolves, Dallas for sure. Wolves. Like all these teams, I'm kind of in on all of the West. So the West will be much more of a prolific episode. It'll be much easier to listen to, I'm sure, because we'll be much happier talking about it, and there will be real high level analysis. Whereas the East's like no one knows. Like, let's just be honest, no one knows. We can analyze the teams.
Yeah.
But analyzing them together is impossible because they all stink. This is going to be an odd year. Like, you could tell me Charlotte wins 38 games, and I'll be like, yeah, I guess. Like, whatever.
Look,
I'm sure they stink still.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna sit here and watch a Hornets Nets game and be like, okay, how do we break this down? They're both bad teams, but it's like one of them's winning. It's like, how are we gonna break down a Hornets Nets game? Like, what are we doing? We don't know who these teams are good at because they're playing against other bad teams in the East. It's like the Big 12 that one year where there was like no one good. It's like, who's good in the Big 12?
Yeah.
They're all playing bad teams. So you really don't know.
Make that like every year for the Big 12, really, when Oklahoma wasn't there. Like, if you just took out Oklahoma, it was like, who's good? Same with the Pac-12. Like, who's really good because they're all cannibalizing each other.
Yes. So, it might be like that. The East might get cannibalized this year. We might see a lot of cannibalism, and maybe the Heat can take advantage of that. I'm just kidding. Obviously, it's a joke. We're just throwing that in there, but someone's gonna have to win games in the Eastern Conference. I don't know. It's a total crapshoot.
So, Mike, we'll be back tomorrow reviewing Survivor. That'll be on the docket for the next few weeks. We took a week off, wanted to see how everything was going. We're back again. Apparently, a dangerous episode tonight. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. Yeah. We're going to have the Western Conference preview next week as well, and then awards soon after that. We might lump that together. We'll see. We went 2 hours in the East, so I can only imagine how long the West goes.
Right.
So we'll see there. And then, of course, we'll get back into talking football. We'll try to toss that in. Just these previews take so long, but football's been really hot lately. Like our Chargers that we were basically gift wrapping the AFC West all of a sudden just can't block worth of anything, and they make 18 mistakes a game, and then now we're like, what are they? What is this team anymore? Exactly. So we have plenty of NFL storylines to talk about as well. The MLB playoffs are getting hot, so you'll be seeing a lot of the Gurus on the timeline. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Over under 1.5 hockey segments in the next 5 months.
Oh gosh, it's probably gonna be an under. A 1 maybe. I mean, hockey segments or hockey episodes? I mean, it's gonna be
hockey just segments, not episodes. Segments.
Maybe they make one. Is there a chance? Outside chance at 2? Maybe. I don't know. It's gonna be tough. I haven't been keeping up with it much. I know McDavid took like a.
Did you know the season started yesterday until the day started? Did you know before the day started?
I turned on the TV at like 5:00 and I was like, oh, there's a Panthers Blackhawks game on at 5. Like, what is that about? I didn't know. I really didn't know. I was like, oh, this is regular season football. This is regular season hockey. I did not know that.
Why does hockey start before basketball? Can someone explain that to me? That makes no sense at all to me.
I couldn't tell you. I think
that might have always been the case. I think it has been, but it just doesn't make sense.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Has it not? I don't know. I have no idea.
I think it's always ended a week before basketball. I think it's the regular season for hockey ends like a week before basketball ends. So I think maybe they start a week before basketball starts, but I couldn't tell. I don't know. I mean, actually, basketball doesn't start until October 21st, I believe, right? So we still have 2 more weeks.
And it used to start around Halloween. Like, basketball used to start a week or 2 later. Yeah.
I think hockey used to start at least mid-October, maybe late October. Now it's like October 7th it's starting. I did not understand that at all. They're starting it earlier. I think they're actually lengthening the season. I think next year it goes to 84 games, from 82 to 85.
Did anyone ask for that?
Nobody asked for that. I guess it's like
I was going to joke and say McDavid, but clearly not because he took a team-friendly deal. That makes sense.
Yeah, I guess maybe this is our hockey segment, by the way. maybe this is their like version.
That's the one. We'll see if we get the over or under the rest of the year. There we go.
We'll see. Yeah. No, no one asked for that. Essentially,
no. But anyway, plenty of Guru stuff around the pipe. So looking forward to that. That is Mike. This is X. We are the Gurus, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Peace out, guys.